I am told that May was the coolest May since the 1930s. We never had one day in the 90s, and it's been terrific. Now it's going to warm up. It's going to get into the 90s here any second now, and the humidity is going to go up. And enjoy while you can. I know we all enjoyed the peaceful night with the curfew being respected a night ago. The protests were peaceful. There were a couple of arrests that occurred after the curfew had ended. For the most part, I'm so proud of Memphians for having their say and then knowing when it was time to go home. No violence, no out-of-towners that influenced anybody in a bad way. Really, really wonderful stuff. I am told that we will have another night with the curfew still in effect, 10 o'clock tonight until 6 a.m. Wednesday morning, we will still have the curfew this evening. Busy show for you today coming your way in about 25 minutes or so. Memphis legend, I think he is, Leonard Draper, who along with Larry Finch, who was his best buddy, and he was a little older than Larry, he brought Larry into the fold for the U of M. They were a dynamic combination when Larry became a coach. They helped recruit a lot of guys together, Leonard Draper, on a number of subjects, including because Larry was such a galvanizing force. I really sort of want to relive that and what he thinks should happen now, what he thinks Larry might have done during all of this. As usual, 4 o'clock on Tuesdays, Brent Beard from Jacksonville. His notes were very conclusive today. There's a top 38 teams, and we go to 38 because Ole Miss is 38th. Memphis was 29th on that latest poll. There were only 4 in the top 38, I think, that were non-Power 5 teams, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff, including we do have the news about the Notre Dame Navy game. We'll get to that a little bit later. At 4:30, our friend Chuck Galina, who's involved in communications with the U of M, but he was the SID at Auburn for a number of years. Chuck Galina will join us to talk a little bit about the life and times after yesterday's passing of Pat Dye. So we will get into that. Then at 5 o'clock, as always, Bo Marchant, collegetopro.com. We'll get the update on any news that may be going on in the NFL. So another busy day here at the Flynn Broadcasting Center and right down across the hall, really right between the glass. My friend, Brett Norsworthy, back in studio. How are you today? I don't think we're not hearing Brett, so hold that thought, Mr. Norsworthy. We will get to you momentarily. The world of sports lost a gentle giant, you could say. The passing this afternoon of Wes Unseld. Wes Unseld, in my mind, might have been, certainly pound for pound, size for size, inch for inch, the greatest rebounder in the history of the National Basketball Association. Wes passed away at the age of 74, apparently had health issues for quite a while. They say it was lengthy. He, I don't think this was COVID-related at all, although there was some respiratory issues at the end. He was maybe my favorite Louisville player of all time. It's hard for me to love a Louisville player, but Wes Unseld, I thought got the most out of everything he ever did. He played from 1968 to 1981 with the Baltimore Bullets and then the Washington Bullets, and then I don't know if they were still the Wizards, if they were the Wizards, I should say, before he retired in 1981. He was a Hall of Famer. That came a little bit later. In 1978, he won the championship, his one NBA title. This guy had 13,769 career rebounds, and he was only 6'7".
Yeah.
He had more rebounds than any other human being under 6'8". Glad to have you.
He was a burly guy. We had a power surge earlier, and that unsurged me. We're back now. And Wes Unseld, you mentioned U of L.
Yeah.
And you pick a good time because the Tigers in Louisville didn't have a thing then.
No.
They had played and they had been competitors even back to Ellis Auditorium And they had a great player, Charlie Tyree, on those teams. And he was one of the great out-of-town players to come into Ellis Auditorium and play the Tigers, Bailey Howell at State, and Don Kestner at Ole Miss among the legendary out-of-towners, opposition teams. But it was not the Tiger-Louisville thing that we know now and we knew through the 70s and 80s when Wesley Unseld was there. And I saw a description today on Twitter, and I think it's pretty apt. If you're under 45 and you're wondering, well, what kind of player would Wes Unseld, what would he have been? And the guy described him as Dennis Rodman without the earrings and the tattoos. They were both shorter players. Now, Wes Unseld had more offense than Dennis Rodman, but their ability to rebound and to position, and his body was more burly than kind of the sinewy, wiry Dennis Rodman. But Wes Unseld was fun, and with Elvin Hayes, those Bullets teams, late 70s, back-to-back years in the finals against the Supersonics, won one, lost one. Fun teams to watch, and the East was so good in those days. Milwaukee was in the East. The Celtics, of course, the Knickerbockers, real good. The East was so good, but at 74, and I don't think it was Corona related.
I don't believe so either. I'm going to go back to what you said about Rodman. I think Wes Unseld was a much more complete player.
Much more. Yeah, he had more offense, but defensively and rebounding.
I'm not sure defensively because Dennis was pretty darn good defensively. But
when Wes Unseld put his foot on the baseline, you weren't going around him.
You could not. He had, first of all, he had a big wide body, right? And he was so strong, he held that position. And even though he was only 6'7", and he wasn't a big jumper either.
No.
See, Dennis Rodman was a better jumper than he was. But his strength and his timing and his will to get to the ball, those –
just the nose fart. And the good rebounders have it. Zebo had it. The
Zebo
ball would find him.
Yeah. Zebo jumped about like Wes Unseld.
Very, very close to it.
Yeah.
Very close to – probably couldn't get over the Memphis phone book, but the ball always found them. And and the stickbacks were legendary. Paul Silas wasn't a leaper. I mean, who is the leaper that was the great rebounder? Who was the?
I don't know. The greatest leaper I ever saw, and I'm not sure he
was a great
known as being
a great rebounder, though.
A great rebounder. But David Thompson was the greatest leaper I ever saw.
No question, Dave. David Thompson was Skywalker original. I mean, got so high, literally jumping in the NCAA tournament game against Pitt and Billy Knight, and came down on his head and split it badly.
Yeah. Who was the original Skywalker? It wasn't David Thompson, because there was somebody who had that nickname. Was it Dr. J? Wasn't it?
Dr. J would be close.
Yeah. I don't know. Those teams, though, that you mentioned with Wes Unseld.
I liked them.
I liked the coach, because he was actually
Dick Motta.
He was the coach of the Bulls before he went to Baltimore.
And tough guy. Had Mike Reardon, and they had the heartbreak of in '75 of the sweep to Al Attles in Golden State, and they really sent Mike Reardon out there to be the goon and try to get Rick Barry kicked out of the game.
Since we're talking
and
about
Al Attles stepped in, and he could have cleared out the whole house.
You and I don't believe that you and I ever really talked that much about Jerry Sloan when he passed away. It must have been on a weekend.
No, you were away that day.
I was away that day. Okay.
Drew and I talked about it, and referenced you and what a tough player. And he's retired at two different places. Number 4 for the Bulls, and his number of wins with Utah. Quite a distinction for Jerry Sloan. And did you ever see him in college at Evansville?
No, but.
Thought that might have been your SIU Warriors.
No, because that's a little prior to me. He's a little bit older than me. But I will tell you this. You all know Scott Foreman, who is the master of the Tiger. The University of Memphis mascot Tiger is supported and cared for by Scott Foreman. His father, Jim Foreman, played on those Evansville teams with Jerry Sloan. He was like the sixth man. And but he's still in great shape. Jim Foreman is. Member of Windyke and big Tiger fan. He comes to all the basketball games and even the women's games and all the home football games. But he played on that team, and he knew. He said, "Look, Jerry Sloan was the reason we were national champions and that was then called the small college.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to watch Jerry a lot when he was with what was my favorite Bulls team until Michael Jordan came along. Those teams had Norm Van Leer, Chet Walker, Bob Love, and Jerry Sloan.
Yeah.
Sloan was
and
the two
usually
guard.
had a serviceable big man.
Yes. Tom Borwinkle
From Tennessee.
was the starter, and that was the starting five right there. And they were really good, and they were fun to watch. And then Jerry was always a great, smart player, and it just translated into being a coach. And he was a coach with the Bulls, and then it actually got fired. He did a decent job, but, that's why it's hard to
I didn't know this
hire
until
legends.
his death.
Yeah.
And that day, it surprised me, played as a rookie with the Pistons. I thought he was a Bulls player lifer.
No.
But played as a rookie with Detroit.
But can I tell you where he grew up? He grew up, and I think that's where he went back and settled. Even when he was coaching Utah, all those years, he would come back every year to a little town called McLeansboro. And McLeansboro is literally, 60 miles maybe from Carbondale, Illinois.
Soybean country.
I used to date a girl from McLeansboro. And she knew Jerry. Of course, everybody knew Jerry in McLeansboro.
Everybody knew Dave, too.
No.
Didn't they, Drew?
Yeah.
They did.
Everybody knew our Wolo.
So,
I won't say he got around because that might have a different connotation to it. But
be careful. Jerry Sloan was he really was a magnificent player and a competitor.
and one of the coaches, like Marv Levy from the NFL,
Yep.
great coach, just Hall of Famer, just didn't win a championship. That doesn't make him not a winner. He just didn't win a championship.
I often wonder this, seriously.
You don't have to.
Can you, when you get to that level,
Eddie Sutton was a winner.
And you've gotten a team
Never won a championship.
like Levy did, like Sloan, and even Eddie
Marty
Sutton.
Schottenheimer,
When you keep getting your team to that stage,
you're a winner. You're just not a champion.
but my question is, who's that really on? If the game plans
But you
have
are a
gotten you
champion.
that
You're a
far,
champion of your conference.
Isn't that more the player of execution of
Well, I think it might be more the players on the other team. The Cowboys
could be. That could very well be.
The Cowboys in Washington, and they were better than and the Giants.
And
They
Utah kept running into the Bulls.
That's right. That's right.
So I sometimes when I see that a coach has done game plans and has beaten teams and gotten that team to the level of where they are, and maybe I'm wrong. I'm not saying this definitively, but my sense is that championships are really won by those players, and
They are.
The coach gets you there, but it's the players that have to really win the game once the thing starts.
And we kind of hashed that around about Dean Smith and Michael Jordan. Dean Smith was great.
Yeah.
And Michael Jordan was great. But just one.
Well, look at Marv Levy of one, had the kicker kick field goals.
Well, probably just that one.
The
if
one
Norwood
where he missed with three.
and that was the first one. That was the better Bills team. I think Washington and Dallas back-to-back were just better. And that was and Dave, that was still the last vestiges that all three teams the Bills ran into in those four Super Bowls, where it was just such supremacy from the NFC.
I agree.
And a lot of it based in the NFC East.
Well, a lot of people think that Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and the New England Patriots were always the beneficiaries of playing in such a weak division that they were guaranteed a good spot in the playoffs no matter what was going to happen.
Yeah, and they did a lot of that. They helped to pulverize that division. They helped marginalize it.
They did, and they had to go through good teams once the playoffs started that were not part of their division, and then they had to beat the NFC champion in order to win those Super Bowls.
I thought 2 years ago the coaches that Belichick went through and kind of had his way with them to defeat Anthony Lynn, to defeat Andy Reid, and then in the Super Bowl, the young, hot thing, Sean McVay, Belichick really that was a trifecta for him.
It was. I would say this though. I thought, and here I am talking about just players. Sometimes you wonder about game plans when things go totally unraveled. Not like there's not one or two plays, but you wonder about it. And even a Hall of Famer in Pete Carroll, we're always going to question not giving that ball to Marshawn Lynch that was one New England championship, and the other was against the Falcons when the Falcons had that big lead and played not to lose.
Well, it will haunt the Falcons more because they don't have one. Pete Carroll has one, but that was going to be back-to-back, and we know the rarefied air that places you in.
Yep, no question about it.
And I think Pete Carroll's Pro Football Hall of Famer even without it, isn't he?
Oh, he is. Yeah. No. That did not cost him. It was a bad – it cost the Seattle team another Super Bowl. In my estimation, it did not tarnish
And Dave, I was there that day, and I had a great seat. I was kind of goal line and kind of loge level. And it was
that goal line?
That goal line, and it was real loud in there because they had just had the crazy Karam play that was almost like the David Tyree play for the Giants.
Right.
They had it for Seattle, and it was really loud in there. They had closed the roof after the halftime show for Katy Perry. They closed the roof, so it was really loud in there. And that building that day, capacity was only about 63,000, so it was really loud. And when they threw the ball, I promise you, I as loud as I could, I screamed, "No! What are you doing? Keep pounding Marshawn Lynch."
Yeah,
Sometimes
there's two things that I've thought about with Super Bowls that seem so obvious. One was that give the ball to the best running back in the game at the moment. The second one, similar, even though the Bears did score.
Give it to Peyton.
Give it to
Sweetness. Yeah.
Because he
that was a
never,
mistake.
ever, and if you listen to Mike Dick in the 30 for 30 they did on that Bears team.
Oh, he regrets it.
He said, if I had only known it meant that much to Walter, I would have given him the ball.
Yeah,
no question.
Walter Payton's such a team guy. He wasn't going to run up and insert himself in it, but he was a little miffed afterwards.
He was a lot miffed.
Lot miffed, and such a shame with the very early untimely death. This hour, our show brought to you every day by Lexus of Memphis, 2600 Ridgeway, online at lexusofmemphis.com, 901-362-8833. Lexus of Memphis offering up the golden opportunity June sales event. Great offers on all 20 models and always special lease options. Drive in luxury and confidence, knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Stop by today at 2600 Ridgeway at Lexus of Memphis and put yourself in the driver's seat of an all-new 2020 flagship LS500. You'll be looking and driving in style. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design, and that makes for the luxury driving experience. Online at lexusofmemphis.com, 901-362-8833. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, I mentioned it was a peaceful night and the curfew was respected, and we hope that again is the case tonight because we're being cautious. The curfew's still in effect, and we're being cautious now with the COVID cases. Shelby County, according to Health Director Dr. Bruce Randolph for the county, says we are not ready for Phase 3. Yesterday, 190 new cases. That's the largest increase since way back in April. There were also 4 new fatalities. So we now had 5,314 cases with 113 deaths.
Sounds like mandatory masks.
Well, I was just getting there. The use of masks could be mandatory. There was supposed to be a vote by the city council this morning that was tabled until later, so we'll have to wait and see if indeed, and that of course is if you are out in public, it would be mandatory by law that you would have to wear a mask, even though we are getting conflicting news all the time. And I mean conflicting, because there are 50% of those that think it's incredibly necessary, and those are doctors that are saying it, and then there are other doctors or the New England Journal of Medicine or the World Health Organization that say it's not that efficient, it's not that effective. So
again,
I don't know what you believe.
Again, the New England Journal of Medicine, here's their wording: wearing a mask is a reflexive reaction to anxiety over the pandemic. offers little protection.
We now have had 75,000 or more tests. So 8% of Shelby County has been tested. We have a rate of 6.8%. The whole state of Tennessee, only 6.3% have tested. So we are ahead of that. There is a new financial program for those of you who are small business owners out there. I would check or have your accountant check, because the governor today announced a new finance program that will help more than 28,000 small businesses within the state of Tennessee. There are now $200 million in federal funds that have been earmarked to our state for people like you with small businesses. The dashboard today, one other note, Frank Martin, the South Carolina coach, has tested positive for COVID. This was a little while ago, and he has recovered. So there's another name in the world of sports.
He'll sweat it out as much as he sweats.
You're not kidding. 23,554 cases in the state, 367 deaths. Mississippi, over 16,000 now with 767 who have passed away. In Arkansas, 7,400 with 133 fatalities. In America now, we are approaching the 2 million mark, 1,868,000 cases, 107,000 deaths, but almost 620,000 have recovered. Around the world now, close to 6.5 million cases, almost 380,000 fatalities. But, Brett, we're close to 2.75 million people around the world that have recovered from COVID-19.
That's good news amidst a lot of sad news. My top story, James Dolan and the New York Knicks, they can find it to quite literally to step in it. And again, for the Knicks, I would prefer you do it sincerely and heartfelt, but just put out a statement. I mean, what would be so hard about that? I would prefer it to be sincere, but don't make it worse. He plays on the edge. Dolan plays on the edge.
He does. Well,
of potentially losing his team in Donald Sterling style, but I don't think anybody can afford to step up right now. If the league could find somebody, and especially find somebody that would pay like Ballmer did for the Clippers, I think they'd like to get that eyesore off the ownership roll.
Well, with Jim Dolan, it's interesting. So the Knicks and, oddly enough, the San Antonio Pacers, Spurs, thank you, are the only two teams in the NBA that did not put out statements about George Floyd and about the protests. It's interesting to me that somebody in the Knicks organization, and I don't know if that was Jim Dolan or not, they put out an email in regards to it. So I don't know why you wouldn't go through that act. Maybe the Spurs didn't do it because Greg Popovich, who is very socially outspoken and usually very intelligent about the way that he expresses himself, was already involved with the coaches' task force or whatever it was in regards to this, and was part of a joint statement that was put out. So maybe the Spurs thought that was sufficient enough. All the other 28 teams did put out statements. I don't understand why the Knicks would take the time to do the in-house note and not put one out. I'm with you on all of that.
Not top story of the day.
Well, Zion Williamson must answer questions about his Duke eligibility. So there's a case going on right now where Zion, according to one agent, has breached his contract to go with another larger agency, CAA. And the agent that was spurred is basically saying that Zion and his family had asked for things from shoe companies and from Duke. And the Zion side was saying, we don't feel we need to answer these questions in court. And a Florida state court judge has said, yes, you do. You have to answer these questions.
My not top story, finally, Notre Dame and Navy canceled in Dublin. It took a long time. I thought that would be one of the first casualties. It took a long time. But also, finally, now Notre Dame will play in Annapolis against Navy. I love it too, Dave.
I do.
And that corps of cadets will love it as well. The midshipmen will love it. They'll play on September 5th, not August 29th like they were going to play. All time in that series, Notre Dame leads 77-13-1, and they won in 1963 with Roger Staubach, and then went forever before winning. But now they've won with some regularity. 4 wins for Navy since 2007, and they've played that game everywhere, but never at Annapolis. They played in South Bend many, many, many times, and they've also played in Baltimore 22 times, Cleveland 11 times, Philly 9 times, East Rutherford 7 times, Dublin 2 other times, Landover twice, Chicago, Jacksonville, Orlando, and San Diego 1 time, and in 2020, coming to Annapolis.
Well, you play in Baltimore, that's pretty much a Navy home game. You play in Washington, that's pretty much a Navy home game.
But on campus.
And I have nothing at all about the Irish going and playing in Dublin. I think that's a cool experience, and probably a cool experience for the Naval Academy, too. But I really do think once that couldn't happen,
Perfect
it was
place.
only right.
As we suggested.
Exactly. As we suggested, it was only right that they go and play. And I think the Navy players will appreciate it.
They will.
Because being on that campus and in that stadium, it is a cool, special thing.
Notre Dame's going to be good, though.
Oh.
One of my dark horse teams.
Yeah. But look what Navy's done since they become an American Athletic Conference team. They're a whole different juggernaut, my friend.
They are.
They really are. Those are your top and your not top stories. When we come back, we will talk about these protests, and we will talk about some history, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about the up-and-coming basketball season, too, with a guy who's truly, in my mind, a legend, a historian in Memphis, a big part of that scene. He is a part of the Larry Finch era. His name is Leonard Draper, and he is next.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Peter Edmiston and C.J. Hertz. Right here on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7 FM.
Welcome to Triumph Auto Sales, where you'll have a great car buying experience. Triumph Auto Sales is your #1 source of quality pre-owned vehicles ranging from lease returns to new car trades, all at huge savings. Plus, Triumph has a full array of financing options to meet your needs. Find your next car online at TriumphAutoSales.com or stop in today at 4875 Elmore Road. Triumph Auto Sales will help you get the vehicle you want at the price you need and the service you deserve. For a great car and a great experience from a local and family-owned business, visit Triumph Auto Sales.
Ah, the copperhead snake. It hisses before attacking. But that's not a copperhead. That's the Sullivan's RV freshwater tank overflowing into their black one, which is backing into their vent pipe, making for a very different kind of attack. One that arrives just in time for taco night. It's wild out there. When it gets too wild, Progressive has your RV covered. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
There's a new commissary in town in Collierville. Germantown Commissary is doubling. Yeah, they're still going to have the old Germantown Commissary by the tracks, but now there's a huge new Germantown Commissary in Collierville at Poplar and Houston Levee Road. It's huge, too. There's a drive-through. There's plenty of parking. No telephone pole to get in your way. A cool patio. It's right by the track, so the tradition continues. And this is a tradition that's been around forever. That commissary is famous for hickory-smoked, slow-cooked Memphis-style barbecue. They've got a private party room at the new one in Collierville. Self-catering still continues. Party packs for $5.95. Basically, the great ribs, the great pulled shoulder, the great deviled eggs. Everything is there in Collierville and Germantown now. So there is now a Germantown and Collierville style of barbecue. It's called Germantown Commissary.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
We like to party.
Welcome back into the Family Leisure Studios. I actually had Family Leisure in my house. You could say the studio moved to East Memphis there for a little bit. Family Leisure was looking at something in my backyard. Staycation, that's the whole concept, right? You stay at home, makes it more enjoyable for you and your family this whole summer long, and they do it with great prices on complete pool package. They start at $15.99. The big 24-foot pools start at under 2000, same thing for the four-person spas, $19.99. The big swim spas, they start at under 10 grand, and those really high-quality swing sets that you see, they've been discounted to $21.99 from $34.99. That is quite a swing. We are offering contractless purchasing, which makes it so easy for you. Deliveries, curbside, you get to choose. You just make a call, schedule an appointment, then you place the order. They'll bring it to you one way or another. Stay safe, stay home, staycation with Family Leisure. I've been waiting for this for a while now. We've talked about having Leonard Draper on forever and ever and ever. Leonard Draper goes all the way back to Larry Finch. He was recruiting him to Memphis and helped to get him here. Leonard, you've been here for the strike in '68, the sanitation strike where they had a curfew. You were around in '78 with the firefighter strike, the last one that we had where there was a curfew. We had one yesterday. We've got one tonight. What was the first thing you thought about, Leonard? And thank you for being with us this afternoon when you heard about the curfew last night.
Well, I don't think this is the first time Memphis has been on a curfew, Dave, best of my knowledge.
No, third time since '68.
Right, but it was kind of expected. And I think maybe the mayor and the police director was taking precautionary measures, because when our march first started, even back to when we were on the bridge, there was no destruction of property or anything like that. Because, when marches, they'll start out being very peaceful, and then you have that segment that will come out and take advantage of the situation and destroy things and steal and loot. So it was kind of expected. I think things are at a calm pace right now, which I am thankful, and I pray for it to come.
And tonight we will have it again. So let us be hopeful.
Well, I am prayerful that it will be a peaceful and calm night tonight to express the disappointment, the sadness of what happened to Mr. George
Floyd,
and hope that things will work and these things will kind of smooth themselves out. For me personally, I don't think things are going to smooth out until something happened with the other three officers. Now, that's just my personal opinion.
I agree. And they should be Mr. Draper. They should be charged as accomplices, just like the offending party. They sat there and let it occur, and I think it makes you just as guilty. So for 52 years now, 3 noted curfews. In the curfew after Dr. King's assassination, it took a lot of people, and you were right there at the forefront, the vanguard. It took the Black Ministerial Alliance, it took the civil rights community, it took the faith community and the white minister groups around town, whether it was Jewish or Gentile. On edge, the tinderbox that it had to be right here at ground zero at the Lorraine Motel for Dr. King, to now we're not ground zero. What was it like for you to be there in those historic times when you knew if something doesn't change, we're not going to get along?
Well, let me go back a little bit, Dave, because and Brett, my mother was last outgoing president of what they call the Tennessee Colored Parent Teachers Association.
Yeah.
So that group was seriously involved in all of that. And that's where I got my background from, because those group of ladies that was running that were very thoughtful in their process, and because they mostly dealt with the school system itself. But I learned a lot of that from that. But growing up back during that time, I was taught to respect people regardless of who they were and the color of their race, because it was a certain segment of people had voices. When you talk about Maxine Smith and those people back during that time, if we didn't have those people to stand out and speak out at that time. And there was another minister, my man slips me right now, he lived out in California. He was back during that time. We had some good, strong people that was leading the forefront with that. And the Rabbi James Wax and those people, Dr. Nicholas Burron, Reverend Nicholas Burron.
Mm-hmm.
Those people were very instrumental in helping us get through these troubled times. Now, leading up to that and getting up to how things came about when Memphis was in such turmoil due to the death of Martin Luther King on April the 4th in 1968, Memphis State at that time still didn't have any black athletes. And coach Mo Iber, who was the head coach at that time, along with Charlie Cavanero, who was a prep league writer for the Negro Prep League, they sought out to find some kids, and they asked me to come and help because Mo Iber's number one target was Larry Pence, who was the first little All-American. And we set out to make a difference. And, coach, with Larry taking the chance and staying at home because he came from a large family, it pretty well brought the city of Memphis together when it came to athletics. And Memphis State basketball is what led the groundwork back with those championship teams where black and white Memphis had something they could both rally around. So at that point, this is why I'm saying that Memphis State at that time came to the forefront, and athletics pretty well set the standard how people got along.
That is amazing. First off, if I could just say, as an addendum to when you mentioned Nicholas Veron, Father Veron, he is still with us today. He's in his mid-90s. Last year was the first year he did not teach his Greek class, and he is still a leader of people today. He's a remarkable human being. I want to go back to you and to Larry, because in 1968, the city is incredibly divided. How did you guys, you and Larry in particular, foresee that sports, that Larry could be the galvanizing aspect to bringing people together? How did you have that vision?
Well, here again, Dave, I went back and sought the advice of some people, and when they asked me, I had the first summer basketball league in the city of Memphis over at Gaston Community Center. This was the only gym that had, and by the way, it was integrated because we had some white kids that come in, the Mike DeLugas, the Ricky Sullivan, and the Johnny Newmans came over to Gaston and mix up and play with the kids from Carver, Booker T. Washington. We had some kids from Treadwell. We had some kids from Kingsbury. But I sought the advice of my mother, who I thought was very wise, and she said to me one time, she said that times were changing. It was inevitable. And she said, those of us who resist those changes, we're going to have some dark days, dark as 1,000 midnights in a cypress swamp. And look what happened. 1963, they dissolved the Tennessee Colored Parent Teachers Association and became one organization with the white organization, which was called the Bluff City Council. So those people laid the standard, and she told me that, hey, if they ask you to help, you can do better working inside than you can on the outside. She said, now mind you, you're going to be criticized. And they really, I was criticized. I was listed, labeled as an Uncle Tom, a sellout. And, of course, a lot of people didn't know that the African-American community was mad with Larry because Larry stayed at home to attend the University of Memphis. As a matter of fact, his high school coach didn't even show up for his signing. It was Vertus Sales, the assistant coach, who showed up when he signed with Memphis State. But once they signed Larry, and then they took his teammate, Ronnie Robinson, and history
it changed.
speaks for itself
It
as
sure
to what happened. I can remember, Dave, we started that season off, we were 2-3. The last game we lost was to Dale Brown, his first year at LSU. And then we took off and won 17 straight games. Well, when we came back from the Final Four in St. Louis, black and white Memphis, 10 or 12, 15,000 people around the airport. Then we had a big celebration at the Mid-South Coliseum. And you could tell how Memphis had bonded together over just a simple basketball team. And that's what led to kind of bridging some of the gaps. You might not know, Dave, but Memphis State was probably the first major college that that recruited the black athlete below the Mason-Dixie line. So that was a significant time back there. But what happened was, if I had to do that all over again, Dave, I would do it all over again because it led to us breaking some barriers with some folks. And a lot of people don't know that. They didn't know that Gaston Community Center was playing integrated kids over at the gymnasium over there on South 3rd Street.
Even before Larry. What made Larry the perfect guy to take all the guff from both sides, white and black, and then win them all? How was he able to do that?
Well, Larry was a strong and kind young man, and I give a lot of that credit to his mother, Miss Maple Finch. And we would often talk. And here again, I live with that philosophy. Do I want to be part of the problem, or do I want to be part of the solution? Well, I choose to be part of the solution. And what I did, I went out and sought advice from some of the high school principals, the Rodale boards, and I know you're familiar with Rodale board, Bobby Terrell, my brother Harold, who was the first black principal in a predominantly all-white school back in 1970-71 at Willow Oaks Elementary. And it was only 5 African-American kids attending that school at that time. So I had the advice of some people who were in the educational field, and we weathered the storm on all of that. And not to say it wasn't a smooth ride, but a rough ride, but it kind of smoothed itself out, And you know what, Dave? Winning cures all evil, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
When you win it cures everything. So, see, I grew up during the time of the segregated time, graduating from high school in 1958 with my friend Willie Harrington, my high school classmate Walter Bailey, who has the criminal justice center named after his name downtown, his brother DeOmni Bailey, who has the courthouse named after DeOmni Bailey. So we made some significant strides in this city.
Your generation is absolutely special. So,
yes. Dave, one thing I would like to do is at some point in time, and I do it all the time, I speak to a lot of young people to let them know about what their history is. And I talk to my sons, and I talk to Trey about how things went at that time. I grew up watching Bull Connor spray folks with water hoses and folks being bit by the dogs. My uncle, Ron Young, lived in Montgomery, Alabama. He was one of the first 5 that walked with Dr. Martin Luther King, because his picture's down in the Civil Rights Museum. But they run his family out of Montgomery, Alabama, and they had to move to Miami, Florida. So we were on the battlefront fighting, but we fight, and we always did it peacefully, not without malice. Didn't mistreat people. Didn't riot. Didn't fight back. Just quietly do your work.
What happened to George Floyd was sheer evil. But if you could go back to those 60s that you're talking about, and the fire hoses and the dogs, are we better now, or are we right back there?
Well, it's somewhat, but we're not completely there, Dave, because there's a lot of joys that happened back during that time. Nothing was done a lot. I can refer back to the Elton Hayes case years back, and if you'll do some research, the kid came out of Orange Mountain. If you'll do some research on that, you'll find that it just has come to the forefront. It was always a boiling pot. So it's nothing unusual. I never would have thought growing up back in the 68 at that time that I would work for the City of Memphis Police Department, which I did for 34 years. But at that time, the way things was, I never thought that I would do that because of what happened when, Ernest Withers was a policeman and the first 7 black policemen that ever joined that department. And at that time, they couldn't arrest white people. They'd have to call white officers to make the arrest. All they could do was detain. So things have changed. But when I look back at what happened to this man last Monday night, it's sickening. It's heartbreaking, and I'm for protesting, but but I'm doing it in a general kind way without any disturbances and stuff like that. Because, you know, when you have these big crowds, you can always have those folks on the side who want to take advantage of what has happened with that. I even grew up during the time when they had the Black Monday, when we were boycotting the schools. So it's a little bit different. But here I'm 80 years old, and I've survived all of that.
You sure
thrived. You've thrived, Mr. Draper.
But if I have to do it, I do it all over again.
Leonard, let me end this with this question for you.
Yeah.
And you can't answer for everybody, but you know what you would like to see in your heart. Leonard Draper, what do you think it takes? What do you guys want to hear? What do you want to hear from government, police, whatever it may be, that you know we take the first step on the way to making this all better for all people?
Well, what I would like to see is that those that are in power, those that are the decision-making process, get together and finally listen to people and hear what people have to say. It's not going to happen, change overnight, Dave. It's going to be a process that we have to go through. But maybe it's time now, because when I see the crowds that are walking the streets now, you see young whites, all people walking the streets, and that's a multitude of people. Mm-hmm. We've never seen anything like this, and I hope we never see this in a lifetime again. But you got to have good leadership, and right now we don't have the good, strong leadership at the top. And I'm referring to that man in the White House. So, but I would like to see government step out and make some more progress. And I pray and hope that will come, and I hope that what is happening here, especially in my hometown, that things would be a lot better and improve. But it has had some improvement over the years.
He is Leonard Draper, historian, a guy.
Dave, I got one more thing.
Sure.
That Brett Moore's word today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right here. Yes, sir.
Stats. I'm sitting here looking at a big old photo on my wall of me, Jackie Robinson, Larry Doby, and Ernie Banks in 1953.
I knew we had talked some baseball.
Wow.
And Mr. Draper, I've told you this many times. I hate it that Monty Irvin and Larry Doby, they're not as remembered as they should be. And everybody naturally goes to the great Jackie Roosevelt Robinson, but let's remember Larry Doby in the American League and Monty Irvin is being second in the senior circuit. And I'm glad that you've got that picture. And we always talk baseball with each other, and you know I love it.
And don't forget, he mentioned the great Ernie Banks,
Mr. Cub.
Right. Let's play two.
Let's play too. And he won back-to-back MVPs in the late 50s in the National League.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I appreciate talking to you guys, and hope there was some input on that.
Thank you.
And Dave, we'll see each other. We'll do this again.
We will. Let's hope we got some sports to talk about here soon, Leonard.
Thank you, sir.
I'm waiting on it, Dave.
You and me both, my friend. Thank you, Leonard.
Okay.
That is the great Leonard Draper. We're late for a timeout. We're back in just a minute.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ. Listen to us daily on AM 560, 96.1 FM, or 87.7 FM.
Central Barbecue is committed to the health and safety of this community, who has supported Central for almost 20 years. Central Barbecue is still open for business with to-go and delivery options to serve the greater Memphis area with the same great barbecue you have come to know and love. With 4 locations to serve you, from downtown, midtown, and East Memphis, you can order your favorite barbecue and enjoy everything on the menu in the comfort of your own home. Call your nearest Central Barbecue location for more information on delivery and to-go options today.
Oh, my stomach.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Try new Pepto-Bismol Chews. The same fast relief of Pepto-Bismol, now in a delightful chew.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
With
thousands of locally owned Napa stores across the nation, chances are that wherever you call home, we do too. So as America starts opening back up for business, and as more of us start getting back out there again, we'll be in big cities, small towns, and everywhere in between, doing what we've always done to help keep our local communities moving forward. So whether you stop by a Napa Auto Parts store, Auto Care Center, or visit us at Napa Online, you can count on Napa know-how.
Hey folks, I'm Jarrett Carter. My family recently purchased East Memphis Ace Hardware at Quince and White Station, and we're excited to offer the best selection of Big Green Egg and Traeger grills. And then don't forget about our Benjamin Moore Paint Studio and the Garden Center for flowers. Save 60% with our new Duracell key fob replacement program. We have a master locksmith service as well as glass cutting and screen repair. The East Memphis Ace Hardware, located at Quince and White Station behind Three Little Pigs.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Wolo and Brett Norsworthy.
Well, that sure was fun talking to Leonard Draper.
And he mentioned that Larry Finch and south of the Mason-Dixon line, what then Memphis State, University of Memphis, the Tigers, what they did in signing Larry Finch and Roddy Robinson from Melrose High. The first African-American Tiger football player I remember, and help me at 67129 at the First Bank text line, the first one I remember was Gerald Tinker, and he was some athlete and kick returner, slot receiver, route runner. He left here and transferred to Kent State and ended up being a teammate of Nick Saban's at Kent State University. And he was just a beautiful athlete, was an Olympian in 72 in Munich, and then had a little bit of a career with the Falcons. I think I even came to see him play in a preseason game here in the early 70s. But, Dave, a book I would like to see done, because all of those first, that first black player around every spot in the SEC, we know them. And I wish somebody would do that whole compilation of Southern first. We know, Condredge Holloway at Tennessee and John Richardson at Arkansas, and just recently the passing of General Ben Williams at Ole Miss. And today, Wes Unseld, in every obituary, ran in the country. The old saying, and I mean this sensitively, is you're not dead until the AP does your obituary. But today, in the official Wes Unseld obituary, it mentions that Adolph Rupp really wanted him to stay at home. Well, he did. He stayed at Louisville, but he wanted him at UK. Lou Alcindor was going to sign with Kentucky, but he was not going to go on road trips to the state of Mississippi to the two schools.
You know what? Lou Alcindor, now Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, was at Power Memorial in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew that he had really considered Kentucky. Now, here was a guy that was always socially aware, and I always thought he felt that Los Angeles and UCLA would be a better fit. Plus, which they were winning.
It was John Wooden.
Winning was John Wooden, and the mantle of the best coach was going from Rupp to John Wooden at that point. I didn't know that. I didn't know he was close to going to Kentucky. Somebody texted us on the First Bank text line, could you ask where Trey Draper is right now? Well, Trey, who, of course, was a player for the University of Memphis. I think he was first came when Josh Pastner was the head coach. He's actually a coach down at IMG. He works with the elite players in the IMG program. So he's got a great job. I know he wants to be a big-time Division I coach, and he is working
on his way
toward that. Yeah, somebody, I guess, what sport did Leonard Draper play?
Well, he loves it all. He's like us. Anything he's got a ball and keep score. But I think his real passion was baseball.
It was, and I want to say, I know Bill Little, the late great Bill Little, was a bat boy and may have had a cup of coffee in the Negro Leagues. I want to say that Leonard Draper was involved in some form. I don't know if it was as an athlete or administration or what it might have been, probably athlete though, and it may have been the Memphis Red Sox. But
Yeah,
I think he was
Martin
involved with the
Brothers
Negro
owned.
Leagues, yeah, with the Martin Stadium and everything else, yeah.
Dave, I've stayed out of it mostly on the Memphis Sports Hall of Fame. I try not to be the guy, requesting songs from the third pew. But when you get around to the next round of Hall of Fame people, the contributions of Leonard Draper.
Well, you're right. I would imagine that he'd have to be in there because he spanned Negro Leagues to Larry Finch and the galvanizing effect of that. And
Bridge builder.
He was really important in. I'm not sure Larry
Dave,
Finch would have gotten here.
In y'all's discussion, has Ross Grimsley come up any?
Yes, he has. Yes, he has.
Has Matt Cain?
Matt Cain has as well.
Has Charlie Lee?
Oh, Charlie Lee is he is a lock for
I would have to look this up, but I would dare say Ross Grimsley won more games than any of the three of them, Charlie or Matt.
Yeah, he might have.
It's a little unfortunate that Matt Cain, is he appreciated enough? I mean, played on two or three World Series winning teams, pitched a no-hitter, big-time big league starter. I mean, Hoss, you knew every 5 days he was getting the ball.
Well, Matt Cain hasn't been out of baseball long enough to be in the Hall of Fame. He had to be out 5 years. Ross Grimsley could, obviously. Charlie Lee could too. So
when did Matt get out, after the 15 or 16 season?
Yeah, I think probably 16. I don't think he's quite there yet. And Ross is a great story. I believe he went to Frazier High School, right?
He did.
And he
17.
He was terrific there. 17.
Okay, so he's still inside.
We got 2 more years before we start.
And he won 2 World Series in 2010 and 12.
Oh, he wasn't a part of 14 in any way?
Quick search shows no.
Okay.
He is announcing for the Orioles now, isn't he?
Long-time announcer, Ross Grimsley.
Yeah.
And he pitched in a World Series game. He was on the Reds team that lost in 72 to the A's. The first of the A's, 72, 73, 74. But and to talk baseball with Leonard Draper and to talk, I mean, he can tell you stories that you feel like you're sitting in that grandstand at Martin Stadium.
Well, he can tell you some stories about recruiting that I don't know if he could say on the air. But
they're good stories.
They are really good
That's
stories.
recruiting, and there's nothing new about the ever moving parts world of recruiting. It's still a lot of moving parts out there today.
Yeah. That's an hour in the books, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, our friend in Jacksonville, Brent Beard, he is next.
Do you get into bed and find your mind still going? If so, try ZzzQuil Pure Z's liquid melatonin. It's made with an optimal level of melatonin for no next day grogginess. Pure Z's liquid melatonin, because sleep is a beautiful thing, at stores now.
Hi, folks. Bob Burkheimer for Sunrise Chevy. Good news for new and used car and truck buyers. The Sunrise Chevy Ranch has a great selection of new and used cars and trucks, rebates up to $6,500, and interest rates low as 0%. At sunrisememphis.com, you can select your vehicle, get your trade appraised, arrange financing and delivery. We'll deliver right to your doorstep, disinfected and ready to go. No matter what your past credit, Sunrise wants to get you financed. Immediate financing with next to nothing down. Need service or body work? Bring it to Sunrise or schedule an appointment online. Find new roads to Sunrise Chevy, 385 in Houston Levy, Collierville.
The folks at Homer Skelton Hyundai want to say thank you. Thank you, Memphis, for another spectacular year. They set records, but I can understand why. You think about the product. Where else do you get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty? That's what you get on every new car at Homer Skelton Hyundai. Oh, and thank you again for the 11th straight year, the #1 certified pre-owned car dealership in all of Memphis. It starts with that product, but then it goes to the shopper assurance. Where else do you go where you get transparent pricing, flexible test drive, take the car for a couple of days if you want, streamlined buying process? You're not going to be there all day, in and out. And then, and I have not seen this anywhere else, the 3-day worry-free exchange. You buy a new car, if you've got any buyer's remorse, you've got 3 days to change your mind. Just get on Lamar, take it into Mississippi, the first exit's Craft Road, turn left, and go see Chris True and all the gang at Homer Skelton Hyundai.
At Jason's Deli, you can stuff yourself full of great deli food that's healthy, fresh, and best of all, it's not expensive. Jason's Deli is all about choice. Whether you're looking for a gluten-free menu, vegetarian sandwiches, healthy kids meals, or if you'd like to invent your sandwich via the build your own selections, Jason's Deli has you covered. And they only use fresh, wholesome ingredients. Choose from the club and specialty sandwiches, paninis, wraps, soups, salads, pastas, and much more. I love the cleanliness in the restaurant, the hospitality, and of course the cost. They have a huge salad bar and great soups, including Southwest chicken chili, fire roasted tortilla, organic vegetable, tomato basil, and many, many more. And if you're planning an event, their catering department is fantastic and can handle any size party. Go check out Jason's Deli's 4 locations. On Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, that's my favorite, on Germantown Parkway in Cordova, at Poplar and Highland, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis. Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Welcome back in. Answer to a question about who was one of the first to play football at the University of Memphis, then Memphis State, Glenn Rogers Sr. Glenn Rogers Jr., of course, with us every week during high school football season. But we thank whoever came up with that answer. Was that a caller?
No, I just remembered it off of further research that I did. But he was one of, I believe there was like 2 or 3 on the same team when
and he might have been in there with Gerald
started.
Tinker.
He might have been, but I know he was one of them.
For Mr. Rogers, what was his first year? Do you have it in front of you, Drew?
I can relook it up. I believe it's 69.
Okay, well, he would have been that would have been before Gerald Tinker because I think it was the season of 70 or 71. And I'm sorry, but I'm a little foggy on it. But I can remember going and seeing him, and he was a beautiful athlete and won a medal in the Munich Olympics as a was it hurdles? It was track and field or track.
Yeah, this was Tinker that you're talking about, correct?
Yeah, okay. but Glenn Rogers that we know, Junior, a great athlete.
Oh no, he was incredible. He's still a good athlete. To be honest with you, Senior. You got that in front of you?
According to the Memphis Media Guide, lettered at the University of Memphis between 1969 and 1971.
Well,
so 69, 70, 71. Yeah, because I you know why it would be 69, 70,
Freshman
71?
couldn't play,
only
right?
3 years. Freshmen could not play in that era.
72 was the first year.
Right. Brent Beard down in Jacksonville, Florida.
He's no freshman.
He knows his football notes are terrific, and he's like a giddy kid because Athlon came out. They came out with their top. You went 38 on us, top 38. I guess that's because Ole Miss was at 38. Come on, my Tigers are like the 3rd or the 4th of the Power 5 of the non-Power 5 teams in there. Somebody's shortchanging us. I don't understand it. Brent, how are you?
Well, I'm doing okay. I'm probably no freshman, but maybe a 6th-year senior, shall we say. But yes. Excited that Athlon is out. Lindy's is out next week. So late, as we would expect, but still it is out. And Phil Steele will be out later on in July. So we've got the magazines. We've got the loss of a legend in Pat Dye. And we've got a change in Notre Dame football moving from Ireland to the United States again. So, man, there's a lot going on.
We talked a little bit about that. I'm excited for the Notre Dame players, honestly. I've done, I can't remember if it's 3 games there now, I think, where we have played in Marine Corps Stadium, and you see all the battles that the Navy has participated in over history. And if you don't get a chill when you walk on that campus and see its beauty, and then you walk into that stadium, then there's something wrong with it.
Just keep going.
I'm grateful that, frankly, the game is basically at Navy.
Me too.
I think that's nice for them. They deserve it. They'll get a lot of publicity for this game. Now, unless you guys have heard something even more current, my understanding is it will be Labor Day weekend, either Saturday or Sunday. So, which would be interesting. Obviously, we've got Ole Miss and Baylor Sunday night, so I don't think they would probably have them back to back, would they? At the same time, they may have them back to back. But I am glad for Navy for that. But look, I'm guessing, guys, that they will. Notre Dame told the good folks in Dublin that let's do this again when it's a little bit safer.
Yeah, there's still 6 games scheduled for that Saturday, August 29th, week 0, as it were. Hawaii against Arizona, New Mexico State against UCLA. That's at UCLA. I say good luck with that. Cal at UNLV, maybe good luck with Cal traveling. And Marshall against East Carolina, and Idaho State against New Mexico, and Cal Davis at Nevada. Now 6 games left for Saturday, August 29th. I think we'll be lucky if it's 1.
Well, absolutely. So, I mean, it makes sense. Notre Dame Navy may have bought themselves a week that actually where they'll get the game played. So you're right about the California schools with that one. And by the way, I mean, on the field, Notre Dame and Athlon is in the top 10.
I'm very intrigued by them.
Matter of fact, they're number 9. The Navy's 71. And guys, if you're and we both have covered games with wishbone teams, but if you're going to play the wishbone, don't you
opening
want to play
day.
the one?
Opening day or at the bowl game. I don't want to play them the week after a rivalry game.
No, absolutely not. No.
You know what though? Here's the thing. I always like playing like Navy later in the year, even though if you play them early, you can devote spring practice to them. But they've always got their healthiest athletes because everybody gets hurt that's a quarterback in that wishbone.
You're right.
And you're going to get that guy at his best.
You sure are. If you get him in September, and the Tigers got it last year, and Dodge won in that Thursday night affair. But at the bowl, if you have them for the bowl game, and there's been some through the years, coaches playing wishbone teams, it's been some chicanery with bringing in defensive consultants for the game plans for playing bowl teams, Brent. Usually Larry Lacewell gets a call.
I'm sure he does. Listen, I'm not saying Larry does, but look, there's probably coaches, guys, who make a living or at least pad a good retirement by being able to have those calls. So, but anyway, not real surprised that they did it. And it's not a monster game, but it's the opener. You never know what's going to happen during that time.
It's Notre Dame.
It is, and just glad that Navy is able to have it on the game.
And it's Navy. We're going to talk a lot about Pat Dye in our next segment with our friend Chuck Galena, that I know you knew well down when he was on the Plains and Sports Information Office for years. But you growing up in Jasper, Alabama, you saw the combination of David Housel and Pat Dye and a wishbone offense, speaking of the bone, with Pat Dye, changed the Iron Bowl really forever.
Yeah, it did. Look, I still say Pat was the greatest coach in Auburn history. I know that Shug Jordan had the better record, but I think when Dye came along, he really took advantage of also some weak coaches in the league, which helped him certainly moving the Iron Bowl to Auburn on alternate years will be something that he will always be remembered for. But guys, people forget this, but Auburn was on the quarter system back then, and they did not have a game where they actually had students who were in class until like the 3rd or 4th week of September, if you can believe that. Oh, yeah. And because of that, Auburn had, that they didn't have 2-a-days. Some of the beat writers told me they had like 4 a day. So and listen, the physicality that they had at that time there's no way that the NCAA would allow it now. But he made them tough, and
he was tough
because he was tough too. And guys, there's two things I'm going to mention real quick about Dye. One is the great what if. Dye, look, Auburn, before they hired Dye, interviewed and talked to Vince Dooley.
Yeah, he went there.
And because that's right. And one of the great what ifs in college football would have been, what if Vince had taken the Auburn job and how different that would have been. And I know Ert Russell was involved, but it also makes you wonder if Vince had taken the Auburn job, would Dye maybe have taken the Georgia job?
His alma mater.
Yes.
Yeah, and that great rivalry played out. It used to always be late. They're gonna jockey it around now going forward, but forever, it could have been a time that Vince Dooley was on the plains and Pat Dye was between the hedges.
It would have been amazing. And guys, one last thing on Dye, and I really wonder as we get up to modern day here, Dye will deny this, but Dye was still very involved in decision-making at Auburn up until the time that he really got sick. And I've heard that from several media people. Now, I'm not saying he made day-to-day decisions, but what I mean by that is something that was a big deal, particularly with football. Don't think they didn't run that by him at some point. What I wonder, Dave and Brett, is now at Auburn with Dye gone, who will fill that void for them?
I don't know. I
might be Senator Tuberville.
Ah,
yeah. It really that makes you wonder. I wonder how involved Gene Chizik still is. I mean, I know you're big money guys. Jimmy Rain is probably that guy now, but I'm just wondering if someone rushes to fill that void, or if they kind of drift a little bit.
Well, Brent, that was Pat Dye also. He was athletics director, and that was a time where just about every place, the football coach here at the University of Memphis, Coach Murphy was AD. At Arkansas, Coach Broyles. At Ole Miss, Coach Vaught. You just go around the league, and they wore both. Coach Bryant, Coach Dye, they wore both hats. Coach Dooley, and now they almost couldn't do that because you wouldn't want the football coach taken down by a scandal in another one of the programs that it could fall to him being ultimately their fault.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And look, guys, don't you now in that role, I'm being a little facetious here, but you'll get it, don't you almost have to have an accountant or a CEO?
You do.
In that AD
position. NBA.
You have to be a businessman.
Yeah.
You have to raise funds, and you have to know all about how to use those funds.
And you need about a 9 handicap in golf because you got to be fundraising and politicking.
You cannot be a successful football coach in this day and age with all the hours you have to put in. Ask Nick Saban, and still do the duties of what an athletic director did.
That's right.
It was different back then. And honestly, for the most part,
simpler.
Every one of those coaches that you just mentioned was in title the AD. They all had guys they put in place to do the business.
And they all had great lieutenants. We could go through them at Ole Miss. Coach Vaught had Wobble Davidson and Eddie Crawford for a long time and others. At Arkansas, Coach Broyles had Wilson Matthews to raise the money and Lon Farrell to watch every red cent of it.
Oh yeah,
he knew where every penny went.
The only change you've got that today, you look at Phil Fulmer and Barry Alvarez, or former coaches who are ADs now who aren't coaching any sports.
You can't do both jobs anymore. It's just impossible.
No. And listen, you've got guys going down the interstate listening to us right now who are actually saying, you mean you had football coaches who did both? Well, it was help me on this, guys. Wasn't it I hate to use this word, but you'll understand. Wasn't it a simpler day then in a lot of ways that you could, that you frankly could do both?
Just look at the size of athletic departments back then.
Yeah, and the Title IX pressure.
It was the reason the football coach was the AD was that they were the main face and voice of the athletic department, and
it was the university of those names.
And guess what? There were coaches that would do multiple sports.
Well,
you would never see that now.
Well, Shug Jordan was the basketball coach at Auburn.
And as Brent said, Dave, if you're Coach Brian or just name one of the ones you just mentioned, and you're going to raise money, who's going to turn those guys down?
Nobody was going to turn them down. Or their tickets would be in the Aleutians.
Let's get to this top 25 that Athlon has put out. Clemson 1, Alabama 2, Ohio State 3. Are we all surprised? Oklahoma 4. One of the things that struck me here was North Carolina at 18. You know what? When Mac Brown was hired, a lot of people thought Mac Brown was coming in. That program was absolutely flailing. You had the academic fraud thing going on. It looked like it would take years for it to recover. And Mac Brown was an old dude who was an announcer now that had seen his much better days. This was all about a paycheck. You would say he'd lost his fastball.
Phil Longo was offensive coordinator.
And here they are, 18th in the country.
That was a cheap shot, wasn't it?
It was.
Thank you.
18th in the country preseason? I mean, that's a pretty quick turnaround.
Well, it is, and they're doing exceptionally well in recruiting. And, guys, here's a game to keep your eye on.
Week 2.
In that second week, they play Auburn. And look, Sam Howell may give Auburn fits.
He could. And that's a battle of quarterbacks that day, though. But two sophomore quarterbacks.
And see, Auburn is rebuilding that secondary, and they're also continuing to struggle on that offensive line. Boy, don't you know Mac's laying for that one right now? And that's their motivation the whole summer, is it not?
It is, and week 2 is the enticing week. It's got the better games. That's Notre Dame and Arkansas, and now for Arkansas, I think they like the idea of Notre Dame not playing a game, having a week off, and really working on everything they didn't get right in Dublin or against Navy, and now they'll be playing the week before Arkansas goes up there. If we have ball, today is the first college football conversation we have had since the start of the virus where we talked about it like old times, like it just definitely will happen. Today is it. Today's the first time we've talked about it. It is a matter of fact.
Do you really believe that?
I don't, Brent. I don't. I'm still on we got a lot of momentum we got to gain.
Well, I think what is important though is at least the green light is there to get guys back on campus, to get them used to conditioning, and the important thing is they're being tested. I think it was 2 Marshall players that were tested and found to be positive, so they will be away from everybody for a couple of weeks, but they'll be able to take care of them at this point, and they're bringing them in gradually during June. It'll ramp up a little bit more in July with probably some kind of maybe a mini camp, we hope, and then to have regular practice in August. So, again, the good thing about it is we've got time at this point to get acclimated and to go through. To me, the big thing you're going to have to do is not learning X's and O's, is get a few of these kids with the virus and then restarting after that. That's the biggest thing to me.
I'm with you. What if there's a cluster? What if 30 guys on your team get it? You got to stop everything.
Yeah, you basically do at that point. By going back now and getting acclimated to what they need to do. And look, I still say, guys, these players are in much better shape being on campus. I know there's a risk, but then being at home, because they eat better, they sleep better, they've got quicker medical attention.
They're basically quarantined.
Yeah, absolutely they are. So
Along those lines, let me ask this protocol, because I really don't know. I know the University of Memphis is reporting on June the 6th, so that's 4 days from now.
Friday or Saturday.
Yeah. If there's camp, right, you can't have camp until basically first week of August, right?
Right.
So are you telling me they're all going to be together, sort of sequestered, doing their own private workouts all of June, all of July, until we get to August, and then they're going to go to camp? And there's not going to be any break?
That's a good question. I mean, loosely, what you've got is again something I think to the to where most of this month will be with strength and conditioning coaches and getting them back with nutrition, and I believe they're looking at trying to do some kind of for lack of a better word, a mini camp in July, just to have a little bit of instruction.
Shoulder pads?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good question. That's a real good question.
I would bet no.
I would bet no because of the heat.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to forget about heat related injuries that we so have kind of gotten it down, but one would be too many.
And you're going to have all those days that you're first you're in shells and then you're in pads and you're limited to that, and you're going to be doing that all in August. So I can't imagine that you're going to do a week or two of that in July.
That's right. And with school starting early, that's going to trigger the 20-hour practice limit really early.
It will. Yeah. And see, we talked about Notre Dame a minute ago. Notre Dame is going back like August the 10th.
Yes.
Or something of that nature, and probably a lot of schools will follow suit so they can be off for Thanksgiving. And again, but back to Dave's question, I don't think we've got a true handle on this yet until they all get back. As far as, and that's a good point. Will there be some sort of a break? But guys, even without COVID, I mean, a lot of these guys, they were back by mid-May, certainly by the 1st of June.
Memorial Day.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were with strength and conditioning and working out and just kind of going through 7-on-7 type stuff with each other at that point anyway. So, but I'm sure it will be modified, but it will be it'll be very interesting to see how it lays out. And I don't know if they know exactly where all that's going to be yet.
Give me your from the first round of magazines. Give me your national college football dark horse.
You see.
Mine's Notre Dame.
You can easily see that right now where Notre Dame is because they really like them. I'll give you a surprise, and then I'll answer your question. It's hard to, Lord, it's hard to say this, but I mean, in some people's eyes, it may be LSU with all the people that are losing.
Wow, that's a good one.
But and then you got Florida. See, Athlon predicts Florida to beat Georgia in their division and to win that. And Dave and Brett, I'm curious if you saw this like I did. Athlon's got A&M 11th.
Yep.
Now, guys, talking out loud here, with those Aggie fans, I don't think they're going to be very happy with just 11 at the end of this year. Do you?
And they're not going to be 11.
That's third in their division. And they're probably not going to be 11 because third in their division probably wouldn't get them there.
And we've been hearing A&M is going to be 11 in football since Dave did their basketball games in the mid-'80s.
Can I ask you this? I was going to make, before you mentioned, the Athlon's got Florida ahead of Georgia. I don't agree with that. I'm sure that game is going to be played in the Swamp. But, that's in Jacksonville.
That's
right, yeah. I think, can I make, as the 8th place team, can I make Georgia my dark horse?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
If that's where they're starting out, you can. And all right, Brent, yes or no? Right now, heading as we get prepared to start heading into the season, in the SEC West, Felipe Franks he's the best quarterback in the West.
I'm going to say no. because you've got Kellen Mond at A&M. This is his third year, and he should turn the corner. Mac Jones, frankly, is no slouch, although he still could get beat up by freshmen at this point. And I still think at some point Bo Nix is going to be very good. I mean, your point's a good one.
I take Franks over all those guys.
At this point in his career, that if they get an offensive line, and with the tutoring that he's going to get from that staff, they've always, and we follow him closely here, Brett, he's always had the potential. He's a better runner than people give him credit for. If he comes into his own, they could have a much better year than people think he will.
Let's just hope they play the games.
Let's do it.
That's all I'm going to say. Brent, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you, Brent.
Look forward to it, and at least we're talking like they will play the game.
It's the most positive college football conversation we've had since the virus. Thank you, Brent.
Glad to be a part of it. Take care, guys.
Thank Athlon for that, too.
Yeah.
We got to do that. That is Brent Beard down in Jacksonville. Our title sponsor for this side of the program is Homer Skelton Hyundai in Olive Branch, and, of course, in the same building, Genesis of Olive Branch. That's my favorite place to go. I love those Genesis cars. Of course, I love the Hyundais. I love both products. Both products are so good. You get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. Both products, unbelievable technology, unreal safety, unreal performance. And right now, I love to say that Homer and Genesis of Olive Branch are the bar. They set the bar for the standard of where you should see the car business residing. I'm serious. They are really good. 0% financing for 84 months. That's the latest. They're the first to do it in the market. You never pay interest on your car note. And to make it even more enticing, how about 120 days to make your first payment on select models? We know it's a pandemic. The odds are 3 or 4 months from now, you will have more money than you do right now. So don't pay for your car until you're back to work. And basically, that's the way it goes. And that could be a Hyundai. It could be a select model Genesis, like my G70. All you got to do is get on Lamar. You get into Mississippi. It's the very first exit. Craft Road, turn left. You'll see all the crew, the gang, at Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. We are back in just a minute. Our friend Chuck Galena, who's now at the U of M as communications director, but he was at Auburn for years as the SID. We'll reflect with him on Pat Dye. That is next.
The word is out about R&R on Sports, where you've heard interviews from Ken Griffith Jr., Dr. J, Hank Aaron, and many, many more. Right here, R&R on Sports, Saturday mornings, 9 a.m., Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7. Don't miss it.
I'm here with the great Pat Donahue from the Rendezvous Restaurant Shipping Department.
Thanks, Brett. We've been shipping our ribs all over the country now for decades from our USDA-inspected shipping kitchen in the Pinch District. We hand-cook our ribs in pits that Mr. Charlie built over charcoal, just like they do at the restaurant.
So what comes in a rib box?
We could do pork shoulder, we could do ribs, our sauce, seasoning, baked beans, coleslaw. We'll even throw in Pancho's cheese dip with our nacho boxes. We also put a bag of Rendezvous seasoned popcorn, heating instructions, some chef hats, some wet naps, and some other helpful tips from our kitchen. We ship our ribs overnight, exclusively FedEx. And we put them in nice packaging. We don't ever want to use styrofoam, so we use corrugated cardboard, actually 2 boxes that fit nice together, so the ribs get to you, your loved ones, or your clients in a safe, wholesome manner. Rendezvous ribs are perfect for out-of-town clients, customers, loved ones. We also ship ribs for any occasion.
Where do we order these great ribs?
You can go to www.hogsfly.com or give us a call at 1-888-464-7359.
Charlie Burgos' Rendezvous Restaurant in the alley since 1948.
At Fisher Investments, we do things differently, and other money managers don't understand why.
Because our way works great for us.
But it may not work for your clients. That's why Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, obligated to put clients first. It's the highest standard for a financial advisor.
So, what do you provide? Cookie-cutter portfolios like the rest of us?
No cookie-cutter portfolios here. Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to meet each client's goals and needs.
But you do sell investments that earn you high commissions, right? And make commissions when you make trades for your clients?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission investment products, and we never earn commissions on trades.
So what's in it for you?
Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when our clients do better. When it comes to helping clients achieve a comfortable retirement, we're clearly different. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
At First Bank Mortgage, their core purpose is to help you get to a better place. That better place may be a lower monthly payment, that vacation you thought was impossible, or getting into a home with a fenced backyard where your kids can play. To get into your better place, First Bank Mortgage makes decisions right here at home. Dedicated to helping you get to your better place, First Bank Mortgage. Call Daniel Mooney at 901-462-0145 today. NMLS 741022. Equal Housing Lender.
You can get podcasts of all our daily shows and all of our biggest interviews delivered right to your inbox just by signing up at sports56whbq.com. It's the best way to stay informed on what's going on in sports, and it's brought to you by Surfacescapes Concrete Floors. They'll get your pool deck looking new and beautiful this year, and it'll be up to 20 degrees cooler on your feet. Call 901-888-5000 or go to surfacescapes.com. Get full shows and the best interviews from Sports 56 delivered straight to your inbox. Sign up at sports56whbq.com.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Yes, cruising through this Tuesday, June the 2nd. Wolo and Stats with you, and now we're going to bring in a good friend for a long time, a Memphian who went away for a while. Chuck Galena was at Auburn for many years, worked with Pat Dye, worked with basketball coaches like Bruce Pearl, and way before that. So Chuck's been around. Now he's with the U of M, works in the communications department. Good afternoon, Chuck. And I know you had to feel a great deal of grief when you heard the word yesterday that the great Pat Dye had passed away. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Will. It's always great to be on your show, and I listen to you every day. So,
thank you, Chuck.
Yeah, it was a tough day with Coach Dye passing away. Just a year ago to the day, so a year ago, one day from today, a year ago from yesterday, the 1983 Auburn football team had a reunion at Coach Dye's ranch in Auburn, and they decided to get a national championship trophy and national championship rings from that 1983 team. So that was a special moment back then. It's hard to believe it just happened a year ago.
Yeah, and a year ago, just a little before that, for the Auburn family, we're grieving the loss of Rod and Paula Bramlett. Mm-hmm. So Auburn has had the loss, but it had the life and times of Coach Pat Dye. And I swear, I think I heard him tell it for the first time listening to George Lapidus on the radio in Memphis, and him telling about going down with the Skyriders tour, the precursor to SEC Media Days, and Pat Dye in the Auburn mess hall and where the Auburn team training table was, told George, said, I got a freshman from Bessemer named Vincent Bo Jackson. He could start for the Raiders, Falcons, Browns, Steelers, any of them right now. And right on cue, George said, well, you got to waive your no freshman talking policy then, because I got to talk to him.
I love it every time I hear that story, Stats. You're making me smile. But George always told that, and it was always great to hear it. You know, Bo grew up as an Alabama fan and would have gone to Alabama, but a coach there told him that he may get a chance to play by his junior year. Well, Bo didn't want any part of that. And Coach Dye told him, said, hey, we're going to give you every opportunity to start if you earn it, but you have to earn it. And he came to Auburn, and the rest is history.
He earned it.
For Auburn. And
he sure earned it. And they were simpatico. I don't think I'm violating anything now, but I'll just give the last four digits. Pat Dye had the best cell phone number ever, 3434.
that's right. And that number 34 did a lot for Auburn, but Coach Dye coming to Auburn did a lot, and it's just amazing how one thing like that, a coaching change, what it has done for that city and that university from that point forward. At that time, Auburn was they were mediocre in the 70s, later 70s with Doug Barfield. As a matter of fact, I was at that 1980 game when Auburn played Tennessee. It's the first time the upper deck was built, the first game with upper deck built on the west side of the stadium. Auburn was ranked 18th. My aunt sent me down there to see my cousin who was going to Auburn, and we went to that game, and it was 42-0 Tennessee, and that was the day that ended Doug Barfield's time at Auburn at the end of the year, and that's when they started talking about getting a new coach. And Bob James wanted to get Vince Dooley, who was his his college roommate at Auburn.
Mm-hmm. Bob James
and
was
Coach
governor.
Dooley was coming to Auburn,
mm-hmm.
and I still remember it. I was 11 years old. Everybody was so excited. We're getting Coach Dooley from Georgia back at Auburn, and then he backed out at the last minute. Georgia was going to name him athletic director, but then it was to Bobby Lauder's credit, his family is. Auburn owes so much to his family for all the money they've donated and what they've done for the school. He's the one that backed Coach Dye. At the time, he was the president of the Auburn Alumni Association. And a good story about that is he was not on the board yet, so he didn't have a vote on who the coach was. And they were deadlocked on who the coach was going to be. And he picked up but before that, he said he was trying to decide whether Coach Dye would be good enough. He asked an Alabama friend of his in Montgomery what they thought of Coach Dye, who was then coaching 1 year at Wyoming after 6 successful years at East Carolina.
Right.
He said, Coach Dye was great at Alabama. We loved him. He recruited well. The players loved him. He said all this. He said, but let me get some more information from you. The coaches, I'll get back with you. Mr. Lauder said, okay, that's great. Well, a couple days later, the gentleman got back with Mr. Lauder and said, hey, I checked on it, and the Alabama coach said, Pat will not do well at Auburn. So he's just not the right fit. You guys will not be happy with him. And right then, Coach Lauder knew Pat Dye was going to be the football coach.
They didn't want him getting
There's
him.
no way Bear Bryant wanted Pat Dye to be coaching Auburn.
And they were really tight, and he was a great defensive coach for the Bear at Alabama, and he started that long run. Chuck, I said when the news broke of him falling very seriously ill just a few weeks ago and the positive test of the virus to go along with the renal kidney problems that Coach Dye suffered from, that he was the coach of the 80s. And we know the coach of the 60s and 70s, who that was. And we know the coach of the 90s was Steve Spurrier. Probably the coach of the aughts in the second decade of the 21st century. We know who that is. So Pat Dye's name is right there with Bryant, Spurrier, Saban, Dodd, Vaught, and the general in the history, and Coach Jordan in the history of the SEC. Coach Dooley, I mean, he's right there among those aircraft carriers.
You're right, Stats. That's what swayed those other board members to want Pat Dye. Is he told them, said, look, I played at Georgia, I coached at Alabama, I know what it takes to beat those guys. And those are Auburn's two biggest rivals.
Right.
And that swayed him. But, you know, before Coach Dye came to Auburn won one SEC championship in 1957 when they were national champions. And when Coach Dye came in 81, in 1983, Auburn went to the Sugar Bowl and should have been the national champions with Miami beating Nebraska and Georgia beating Texas. Auburn beat Michigan and should have been number one, but they won the SEC championship in 83. And then won 3 straight, my freshman, sophomore, and junior years at Auburn in 87, 88, and 89. What a great college career that is. So in 7 years, Auburn won 4 SEC championships, and they've only won 4 others in their history. That tells you, like you said, Coach Dye was the coach of the 80s.
And if I recall correctly, they'd lost 9 in a row to Alabama when he got there, and I think he ended up 6-6. And may have won 3 or 4 in a row at one point in that series.
Made it a rivalry.
I always wondered why did Pat Dye leave East Carolina to go to Wyoming?
I do not know the answer to that, but I do know when he left Wyoming, they were trying. It was over the Christmas holidays. I've seen where he said he didn't know whether he was going to put up a Christmas tree or not because Auburn didn't know what it was going to do. His other coaches in the running with after Vince Dooley left, other than Coach Dye, was Jackie Sherrill. He wanted it badly. He was at Pittsburgh. Bobby Bowden was in the running. There were some big-name coaches trying to get it because they knew Auburn was a gold mine with the recruiting base of Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. And Wyoming wanted him to sign a contract extension, and he wouldn't sign it. And they gave him an ultimatum, said, hey, either you sign it or you're not going to be our coach. Well, he didn't sign it, and they fired him. So he didn't have a job.
Wow.
And to tell you, when he came to Auburn, he didn't even ask what they were going to pay him. They paid him, once he signed the contract, just tell you how times are different now. He signed the contract, and then he asked Mr. Lowry, he said, well, what am I going to be paid? He said, well, we're going to pay you $50,000. The school's going to pay you $50,000, and I'm going to pay you $50,000 for your media rights deal. Because he was with Colonial Bank. And so for $100,000. And I remember I was in the lobby of the athletic complex one morning, and Coach Dye was there, and I tell you, there's nothing better than sitting around and just listening to Coach Dye talk. But he brought up the point that, and I don't know how we got on salaries. Maybe we were talking about coaches' salaries during these days. But he said, you know how much the most money I ever made from Auburn? I said, no, sir, I had no idea. He said, my last year I made $100,000. That was 1992. He made $100,000. And look what the salaries are now. It's just amazing all you got from him, and with such a low salary. But that didn't matter to him.
Yeah, the football ops guy makes that, doesn't he?
No doubt. More than that. You know what? He should have gotten Jimmy Sexton on the case. Of course, Jimmy was young then. And really, $100,000 in what was that? What year was that?
1992.
No, but his first contract when he got there, so that would have been
50,000.
68. 68. He got 50 and 50 in 1968.
No, that was 1981. 1981.
Oh, 1981.
I'm talking about it all.
Okay.
Yeah, when he came to Auburn in 1981.
Did he ever talk about how it was for him to to be a native Georgian and play at Georgia and that be such a big late season game? And you mentioned the two big rivals, and Auburn used to get them in back-to-back weeks, and it always made for a lot of fun or a lot of sadness. Did he ever talk about but being his job having to beat his school?
Yeah, it was Amen Corner.
Yeah,
Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, and Utah. In that 1983 year, Auburn's last five games, they went 11-1. They beat 4 top 10 teams and then number 19 ranked Alabama. So they had the number 1 rated schedule. But he always called it Amen Corner because he was from Georgia, Blythe, Georgia, which is near Augusta and the Masters.
Yeah.
So he always dubbed that as Amen Corner
That's
at Auburn. The greatest thing I had, I was there as a student when Coach Dye coached, so I was around him, being in the SID office, getting quotes and stuff like that. But the most time I cherished was when I was working there full time. Every year we'd have reunions. Well, it was a 10-year reunion, 15-year reunion of all the championship teams, and it was before each of the games, and all the players would come back, and everybody worked with them, and me and the two video guys, we just loved Auburn history. We sat down and interviewed the players and interviewed Coach Dye, reminiscing on times back then. Talk about learning so much. It was priceless being able to do that, to sit down with him and do that with talking about it. It meant everything for him to beat. That answer your question, Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah.
He went to Georgia, he coached at Alabama, but he's an Auburn man.
Who's the Auburn historian that's so good? Buddy
Davidson.
Oh, man. He knows it all.
So who would Buddy Davidson consider the greatest Auburn coach of all time? Shug Jordan or Pat Dye?
Well,
That's tough.
When Shug Jordan came along, Auburn was about – David Hauser would be great to talk about this. Auburn was bankrupt. They had to borrow money from Auburn Bank in order to foot the payroll. That was back in 1951, I believe, and it was Shug Jordan and Jeff Baird came in together, and Jeff Beard was the athletic director. And Coach Jordan, I mean, he won the national championship in 1957. He turned around the program. But, you know, they're right there up on a pedestal, both of them.
He signed the banknote, didn't he?
Stadium.
Didn't Shug sign the banknote?
Yes, he did. He sure did.
I mean, he was personally on the hook if this doesn't go right.
And, it was just at the time. Then my dad was friends with his daughter, Lisa Pilgrim. So when we would go down to Auburn, we would go by Shug's house. And just drop in. I mean, it was just, it's a small town. It was, a different time than it is now. But to answer your question, which one is better? It's hard to compare. They're both up there. I tell you what, Auburn would not be what it is today without Pat Dye, because he got that stadium enlarged to 85,000. The Board of Trustees, backed him for that. By doing that, Auburn was able to bring Alabama to Auburn to play. Bear Bryant said that would never happen. Bear said, well, Pat, the contract runs through 1988. He said, well, Bear, you guys will be coming here in 1989. And Bobby Louder with Pat Dye got that done to have Alabama come. And with that, Auburn's season ticket base grew exponentially. I mean, it's selling 65,000 season tickets a year. And what that did, it brought so many people to Auburn. The enrollment went up. There was new hotels built in Auburn, restaurants. More people moved there. It's a great place to retire to. Just all because of that Pat Dye, all that happened to Auburn that made it the wonderful city that it is now, and it's no longer the little itty-bitty city that it was, years ago.
Well,
so that's the impact Pat Dye had on Auburn.
And the vision of getting the Iron Bowl out of Birmingham.
Yeah. Because it wasn't neutral.
That is, as they say, the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Chuck Galena, I could reminisce with you all day.
Thank you, Chuck.
Hey, one thing I want to say about ever since Coach Dye came to Auburn, that series, Auburn-Alabama series, is Auburn 20, Alabama 19.
Yeah, and if it's been out of Birmingham, that thing all the time would be different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. You're true. It was never a neutral site.
We got to take a timeout, Chuck. You're going to want to keep listening, though, because there's two things now. Baseball and the union have agreed upon. We'll let you know what that is.
Thank you, Chuck.
In just a minute.
Take Sports 56 with you on your phone or tablet. Download our official Sports 56 app today.
Great news, sports fans. The Butcher Shop Steakhouse is now open for dine-in service. Make a reservation and enjoy a mouth-watering steak dinner. Or, if you prefer, take it curbside. In addition to their fantastic steaks, the Butcher Shop Steakhouse has a variety of entrees, including Canadian lobster tail, crab-stuffed shrimp, hand-seared red snapper, and fresh ground steak burger with portobello mushroom sauce. Planning to cook out? The Butcher Shop Steakhouse offers a great selection of hand-cut fresh steaks, lamb chops, Atlantic salmon, and more. Father's Day is coming soon, so make your reservation for dine-in or pre-order for curbside pickup. The Butcher Shop Steakhouse, dine-in, curbside, and delivery. Call us at 757-4244 and visit our website, thebutchershop.com, for menus and more. The Butcher Shop Steakhouse, Walnut Grove and Germantown Parkway.
If you're going on vacation, making a college campus visit, or if business takes you out of town, there's just no better place to board your dog than Barks and Recreation, 965 Ruddock Cove between Bud Davis Cadillac and the Blue Plate Cafe in East Memphis. Boarding, daycare, grooming, we have the best of everything at Barks. Indoor-outdoor kennels so your family member can go in and out as they please. Indoor and outdoor play areas. 4 walks a day, Group play and individual attention from the best staff in the Mid-South, which includes an overnight staff to ensure the safety and comfort of your pet 24 hours a day. All reasons to choose Barks and Recreation above all other boarding and daycare facilities. BarksDaycare.com or 509-0909. Check us out and make your reservations now at BarksDaycare.com. If your dog could speak, he'd say Barks.
DeSoto Auto Sales specializes in late model cars with low mileage. They have the highest standards in the car industry. All of their cars are test driven, checked out from head to toe, unlimited inventory, every make and model. And if it's not on the lot, they'll find it for you. Walk in the door of DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Within 45 minutes, you can test your car, get credit approval, and finish paperwork within an hour. No shortcuts at DeSoto Auto Sales. Kind, courteous employees, a down-home environment. DeSoto Auto Sales cares about your time. Lowest prices in a 350-mile radius. We're living in a world today where time does matter. Visit them online. Check out their referrals. DeSotoAutosales.com. Very proud to serve DeSoto County and other surrounding areas. DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Call 662-890-7184. 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto Auto Sales.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
No real big news from baseball.
Don't do me like that.
But wait. While they've jockeyed back and forth, apparently the union, according to the Boston Globe, has embraced the proposal from the owners to only play a regional schedule, which means the American League East teams will only play other AL East teams and National League East teams in 2020. And the number, of course, would depend on how many number of games they end up playing. The other thing is that they will keep the divisions intact. So it's not going to be just 3 divisions, right? It will be the 6 divisions with winners of the 7 playoff teams per league for the postseason, 3 division winners in each league, and the 4 wild cards. So they're keeping the divisions, even though you're going to play the other division. It's not one. So the NL East still is the NL East. The AL East will still be the AL East. And each division winner is in, and then the 4 wild cards. They're all in agreement on that.
Well, I guess that would – for baseball, that's giant leap for sports kind.
I guess. Of course, you notice there was no mention of money in that.
Yeah.
I would feel better if they agreed on something monetarily.
Well, that's usually last, and it's the hardest.
Apparently, according to the CBS story, talks continue, and though there are disagreements, things have continued to get closer to the middle steps.
That qualifies as progress, doesn't it?
It is. I think that's the most positive baseball story I've seen in 2 or 3 days. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. But it's not moving the needle anything like the NBA. The NBA really putting out more and more dates, and Thursday's going to be the big tranche of news. And into Friday, now talking about with the NBA finish, the NBA Finals being around October 12th. Heck, that's about when we would be starting.
Man, it is exactly when we'd be starting. And that's why there will be those 2 months where nothing will happen, and then they'll start in Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so Thursday we hear NBA. Tomorrow's a big day, maybe around here. Tomorrow, isn't it Musa Cisse Day?
It is.
The decision day for the big man from Lausanne?
Tomorrow is the day. Again, I'll be stunned if it's not in Memphis.
You know how many texts or calls that I have had regarding Musa Cisse?
Many.
And you know, as much as I would like to say that I am that plugged in, I think I'm generationally removed from the recruiting. I really am. I think you got to be younger. I don't know. I really do not know. I would love for Musa Cisse.
Drew, would you tell?
If I knew the answer, I would.
I mean, would you tell if Dave told?
No, I wouldn't.
We'd just keep it a secret here.
Yeah, I can keep a secret for a day.
I would tell you if I knew. That's all I can say. I wish I knew. I don't.
You know what everybody's going to say if it's LSU.
You know, when guys from 24/7,
I hear you.
Christian Fowler, Brooks Hansen, Evan Daniels, that's what they do all day. They call those kids and those kids' coaches and those kids' friends.
They work hard.
And they do. And they dig to find out that information.
You ever met a recruiting guy that wasn't happy as could be? They love that.
They do.
They love
that job.
They love their spot.
They do. Then, you know what? Especially early on, when they get burned a couple times, they don't love it as much.
Yeah. And it's a high wire act out there. It is, and it's why I don't crush them when they're wrong. Hot Take Radio guy is who I crush when they're wrong.
Yes. This portion of the show, speaking of hot, brought to you by Conway. Conway Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, electric. Not hot, cool. That's what we want. We want cool. And right now, because it's never a good time for your system to go out, Conway and Carrier have teamed up to make this the perfect time for you to get into the 2020s. Get the new, brand new, wonderful technology from Carrier. And if you buy a system, the Infinity, you'll get a $1,500 Visa card. If your system, your whole setup needs 2 units, okay, now you're going to get $3,000 in Visa cards. That'll come in handy. That could come in handy for a vacation later in the year. That could come in handy for education later in the year, whatever it may be. Who wouldn't want $3,000 in Visa cards? And if that's not enough, how about an April air cleaner to get the dust out of your home, a 10-year parts warranty, a free Nest thermostat, plus, with Conway, you got easy payment plans. They start as low as $139 a month. Well, you always get the award-winning service every time, too. All you got to do is make the call, 384-3511, 384-3511. You'll love the Visa gift card if you call Conway. Back with hour number 3 in just a minute. Bo Marchant, collegetopro.com, is next.
Chris Price here for Brian Elder Roofing. The storms we've had over the past several months have been devastating to our communities. The rainy season is ahead. You may have not even noticed the dripping in your attic, water stains throughout your home, or even worse, mold and mildew. Please call Brian Elder Roofing and we will send out our project managers to assess any damage. We will not try to sell you a roof if all you need is a repair. We will measure your roof from outer space. 0% for 60 months, even no payments till 2022 are available with approved credit. If you've noticed missing shingles, water stains, leaks in your roof, call us before you call your insurance company at 867-0303. That's 867-0303, and we will provide a free, thorough inspection of your roof's condition.
Call 867-0303. Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
Ah, the copperhead snake. It hisses before attacking. But that's not a copperhead. That's the Sullivan's RV freshwater tank overflowing into their black one, which is backing into their vent pipe, making for a very different kind of attack. One that arrives just in time for taco night. It's wild out there. When it gets too wild, Progressive has your RV covered. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Looking for a great place to deposit your money? Try First Bank. Competitive CD rates, a money market that moves with Wall Street prime and interest-bearing checking account options. Not to mention their friendly bankers who make decisions locally. To find out more, stop by one of First Bank's 3 local branches. 6482 Poplar Avenue, just east of International Paper. 8398 Highway 64 across from Wolf Chase. And 6280 Highway 64 in Oakland. Or visit firstbankonline.com. Member FDIC.
Hi, this is John Conway with Conway Services. How old is your water heater? With most of the water heaters in the Mid-South located in the attic, the worst day you can replace your water heater is one day too late. It may be time for a tankless water heater from Conway Services that never runs out of hot water. Plus, these energy-saving models only heat the water you use, saving you money on your gas bill every month. Most 10-year-old water heaters were about 65% efficient when they were new, compared to a tankless water heater from Conway Services is up to 98% efficient. Plus, right now, get your tankless water heater from Conway Services for as low as $79 per month, or I'll give you $300 for that old tanked water heater. And no more worrying about that tank bursting in your attic either. And with over 8,000 5-star reviews, you know Google guaranteed Conway Services will be providing that award-winning service every time. So call Conway Services, the Mid-South's premier tankless water heater professionals at 384-3511. And the first 30 callers with a 10-year-old water heater will come out and inspect it absolutely free.
Call 384-3511. Conway Services. Call Conway today.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis, Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
Third and final hour on this Tuesday afternoon. It begins with Bo Marchant talking the National Football League. After I tell you about DeSoto Auto Sales, the title sponsor of this hour, and we thank them so much. At 5704 Goodman Road, go to their website and check out the many happy referrals and please reviews at DeSotoAutoSales.com. 662-890-7184 down on Goodman Road in DeSoto County. Come on down for that town and country experience. No high-pressure sales. They want you to enjoy the ultimate car experience. They care about your time, and they know we're living in a world today that time really matters. You walk in within 45 minutes, find the car you want, test drive the car, credit approved, paperwork completed, and you're gone. In time to do it over your lunch hour or immediately after work and get right on home for dinner time with your family. Laid-back atmosphere, no high-pressure sales. All the cars are test-driven. Everything's checked out head to toe, unlimited inventory, every make, every model. If it's not on the lot, they'll go out and find it for you. No shortcuts taken at DeSoto Auto Sales. Very proud to serve DeSoto County and the surrounding area. At 5704 Goodman Road, come on down to DeSoto Auto Sales for that town and country experience in DeSoto County.
Every week at this time, we get to chat with our good friend. That would be Bo Marchant from collegetopro.com. Word coming out today, Bo, that apparently training camps will not be going anywhere. You know, the Bears used to go to Wisconsin all the time. Now training camps will be held at the NFL home team's facilities.
So no Latrobe for Bo.
Yeah, real quick, and before each show, you guys, the intro is always with the DeSoto Auto Sales.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, every single time, and my wife might kill me, I want to go drive to Goodman Road in DeSoto County and get one of their cars. I mean, you guys sell that, and I'm just telling you, every time before we go live,
we can make it happen, Bo. Come on down.
I'm telling you, you guys sell it. So DeSoto Auto Sales, I'm telling you, guys nail that on. But
thank you, brother.
Yeah, Latrobe, it will be weird. But the sign of the times. I'm just still, curious in terms of, it seems like the curve, the spike, the peaks of this COVID-19 is kind of dissipating across the the United States. But if there is a second wave in different states, do different things, I guess they're just going to allow teams to move. But I still think we're so far off to think that, hey, you know what, the Buffalo Bills are going to be in Orchard Park, and the Steelers are going to be on the south side of Pittsburgh, and Cleveland's going to be in Berea. Just who knows how this is going to end up. I mean, if it does, it does. And I know the Jets have a beautiful facility. I kind of think of some of the facilities that I've been to, and if you go to New York to see the Jets facility, you feel like you're in the U.S. Enterprise on Star Trek. Right? It's like a spaceship. Yeah, I'm not the brightest person. I'm far from maybe the dumbest, but I didn't know how to use the sinks. That's how advanced they were. So, yeah, I didn't want to look like a fool, so I just kind of sat there and acted like I knew what I was doing, and and just kind of wiped my hands off and went about my way after I ate lunch. But
interesting that the NFL is doing this, because the Greenbrier, the fashionable resort in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, and owned by the governor of West Virginia, Governor Justice, they were getting prepared to host several teams in kind of a biosphere site. So this might be saying that the NFL, with some intel and with medical information they're getting, that we really are hopeful. 100 days until the start of the NFL season today, for the 101st NFL season. But as we said last week, I think they're going to really try exhibition games. Going to try the Hall of Fame game, and maybe we can and get some momentum with the NFL. The players aren't going to mind. Now throwback, Dave, you mentioned those times for the Bears up in Prattville.
Yeah.
In Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I mean, some legendary parties and camps there.
Oh yeah. And then what the Cardinals used to be in, was it?
Bourbonnais?
Bourbonnais, that's it. Yeah. And you always try to go to little cooler places away, a pretty area. There was a lake by there or something, So the
Saints went to Dodgertown.
Did they
Archie
really?
Manning trained at Dodgertown a time or two.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Wow. Training camp is one of those things. I always look forward to it. And speaking of things that, yesterday we, and again, there was a proclaim in the email, but yesterday, Steeler credentials for the season went out yesterday. So that was
That's progress.
Reassuring thing to get, because, yeah, you know what I mean? Just, but they said, it was kind of like, we don't know how this is going to go. So, it could be different from years prior, but nonetheless, I think anything that you can do to kind of keep in with the motion of, your routine, your habits. But it was nice to get that email. It just kind of really gave me a sense that, hopefully this thing does get going. And, fortunately for football, absent of, baseball was really never able to get going. Hockey and basketball, at least we were kind of, past that mid-season point. We were kind of revving up for, February, March for playoffs. But at the end of the day, football's kind of get through this, and, no training camps, no OTA, no rookie camp. Well, I should say training camp possible, but, the rookies, the mini camps, and, things of that such we've missed. But, pretty normal so far for the Shield.
Well, when you got that application for your press pass again, was there any kind of protocol that they put in there, that they would be spacing socially, that they would require masks
or liability
or testing,
exclusion,
or your temperature is going to be taken, or some sort of liability clause? What was there anything of that nature?
Or was it just standard?
You guys put a lot too much faith in me. No, I just saw application and
you filled it out
and I put in my normal things that I do every year. I didn't notice anything, but I did glance over it. I didn't notice anything. If anything is in there, then I was felt to pick up on it. But it was just the normal, some just fair warning that this may be different just because you applied. There could be structural changes, I guess. And I think that was in a nutshell saying, hey, this could be how it goes. But other than that, it was the typical format. Do you need a press box seat? Are you going to have a still photographer? Do you need a parking pass, satellite truck, all those things that go in into that credential request. But other than that, I did not pick up anything.
I'm with you. I sign when I get my Ole Miss contract in, I sign it and mail it back from the post office and never even take it home and read it.
Seriously,
yeah,
you do not.
I promise you, I do.
I read mine.
Do you?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Well, not
I got to ask. Has there ever been anything that you've picked up on where you're like, wow, I'm glad I read that? I'm just curious.
But Dave's hashing out private airplane and suite on the road and make sure the cotton on the robe is just right for the room on the road. Dave's got a little finer details.
The cotton count, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even look at the money aspect. I just sign and glad I'm a part of it.
I'm just glad they let me in. So that's what my point. I'm not going to,
I promise you, Brett is exaggerating here.
No, I sign it before I leave the post office. I promise you.
Really?
I swear to the Almighty.
Well, I do hope that we are able to have a season that we can all cover, that there are fans that will be in the stands. I
we're
really
safe.
do not know where this is going. I could very easily see like baseball is going to do. Baseball is going to have their season if it all comes together, but there's not going to be fans in Pittsburgh, and I'm assuming that, Bo, that's your team for baseball too. And I'm not sure if there will be like a beat reporter from each city's newspaper. Will the radio guy be there? Will the TV guys be there? Will there only be one
spotters.
TV package? Right. Well, for football, will there be spotters and stat people that, will be in your booth? In some of these NFL stadiums, they've gotten larger booths, but
and got them down in the end
but
zone.
Terrible angles. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's weird you brought that up because I was thinking, like you said, there are so many people doing so many things during a game that, it's mind-boggling when you see everyone doing so many different things. I mean, like you said, you have stat guys and audio guys. It's crazy. And I was even thinking, like, how are they going to accommodate this if they do have to, space people out? I mean, I just roughly, maybe there's 160 seats in the Steelers press box. So I mean, if they eliminate that to 80, where are you going to put the other people? Are those people not going to cover the games? And then, even that, there's a cafeteria, which is, prior to the game, sometimes it's just hard to find a seat because then you have the people on that level that are in there. You have, the media, owners, people from the other team, media from the other, team. So, who knows how they would space that out. So, it's one of those things we'll find out when it comes, and just again, like fans in the stands. I mean, I just couldn't imagine being in a press box for any game. I mean, it could be a YSU football game and looking out and not seeing a soul in the stands and just seeing these guys run plays. Kind of eerie. There's something eerie too about it, and I think it's going to be eerie for the players. I mean, you guys have been around sports your whole life. I mean, you know what it's like just being at a practice where there's not a lot of people around, maybe at the end of a training camp day or whatnot. I mean, it's quiet, and just to think that would be the atmosphere in a 70,000 seated stadium where there's just nobody in it. It's just even if they pump in the crowd noise,
it would miss
TV.
Something.
It's there, yeah. It lacks something, and I think that's an intangible to the sport that I think the players would really, really miss when it comes down to it.
Bo, we have to ask it, especially with the sad events of the day. Colin Kaepernick get invited to a camp?
I don't think so. With everything that has gone on, that tragedy in Minnesota, his name has come to light in terms of, but yeah, when he was, and I argued that he should have been in a camp immediately afterwards, and because of his talent as a player, and now I think it would be foolish to think that this guy's been out of football since that point, and he's just able to come into camp. And, for what he stood for, if you believe in it or not, or no pun intended, but what he kneeled for, I should say. But I think it would be a little gimmicky to invite him in. I don't know if there's a legitimacy there. And then, do you let him go? Are you forced to keep him on the team? If you do release him at a certain point, is there a backlash? And at that point, when this all went down with Colin Kaepernick, I thought that he was, definitely capable of being, a quarterback backup at the bare minimum, a backup, the bare least minimum. I mean, possibly still a starter, could have resurrected his career and got things back on track. But, that window has kind of eluded him. And, I think we all know that there was a little, a force of nature from the people from above that, maybe jettisoned it that way. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like a Johnny Manziel thing. I mean, you want to play, but, do you really think this guy's going to be able to come in and make an impact at the National Football League being out of football that long? I just think the window's passed, but, maybe a year or two we'll just get finally away from, we'll know his role in terms of social, what he wants to stand
could
for.
Y'all see? Bo, could either y'all see Colin Kaepernick in some type of commentary role on a pregame show?
Possible. I would say this.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think Bo has just said it absolutely correct. The Colin Kaepernick career ender was because of political reasons.
Yeah, it was collusion.
And there was no doubt that they felt he was bad for business, and because of that, they were not going to allow him to be on a team. He was, and I couldn't have said it any better, I'm not sure he was still a starter, but at worst, he was a backup. If you would have looked, especially 2 years ago, you would have looked at the backup quarterbacks in that league and compared them, or even some of the starters, and compared them with Kaepernick when he was really rolling, and he was a better player than most of those guys. So he got drummed out of the league.
Yeah,
and because of what happened to George Floyd, I think that political boycott, if you want to call it, is now over. I think people are going, okay, maybe we should have listened. I think he becomes a much more sympathetic figure and a much more accepted figure, and it wouldn't shock me if he wasn't good enough because he's been out of the game for so long, where some network would go, you know what, he deserves a chance. Let's see how articulate he is. We know he knows the game, and give him a shot because he deserves it.
Yeah, and I was fortunate enough. I mean, when he was down at the Senior Bowl, when he came through Mobile, I interviewed him down there, and I mean, he was such a nice kid, and I mean, so I mean, you pick up on the, I could tell you there's certain kids that you talk to that you just know they're bad seeds, they're not good individuals, and you never got that that impersonation with Colin Kaepernick,
and
I knew his
I did
agents,
at the Super Bowl. I did
and
Super
his
Bowl
agents,
47.
they loved him. I mean, when I think he's changed agencies since then, but when he was first coming through, the agents that represented him, they loved him. They said, I mean, they just you couldn't find it. They talked about how he loved candy. He ate more candy than 10 kids at Halloween. They said he was just, a candy machine. But at the end of the day, it didn't work out for him. He did what he did, and on the flip side, I mean, anyone who runs a business, if you're bad for business, I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing. I mean, if you guys are bad for your business, they're not going to keep you around. And that's one of those things that, sometimes these guys may think, hey, you know what, I have a platform, but at the end of the day, somebody's paying your check. They don't like what you're doing, and it's weird because he was in that point where, the contract was up. It wasn't like he was on the roster where they had to release him. So it was a that's the one thing I think about. Like, if he was still signed, what would have San Francisco done then? But he was a free agent and this happened. So, they kind of had an out. I always say that with Ray Rice. I mean, he had a big salary contract. That thing went down with the video, and then, the Ravens looked like, oh, look at us. We're doing the right thing. We're releasing Ray Rice. Ray Rice is just say Christian McCaffrey. That doesn't end that way, and people could say, no. But I'm telling you, there's a whole different scenario of how that shakes down in Baltimore if, Ray Rice is at the peak of his career more so than the tail end of it.
And how many times do we get in trouble over stereotypes and what real or perceived perceptions? Bo, I remember back to the last day of the regular season of the 2017 season, maybe 18, and I'm in Los Angeles to go to the Rose Bowl the next day, and I went to Rams 49ers on that Sunday afternoon. It wasn't even close. I mean, it was 5-1, the number of number 7 jerseys that day between those two teams. I mean, it dwarfed anything the Rams had. It was at the Coliseum, and it was by far the most popular jersey in the stands.
Yeah, I mean, he was on the verge of greatness. I mean, if you could have paused his career and just frozen in time when he was at his peak, you said, what do you like? The San Francisco 49ers are going to be back in the Super Bowl with this kid. And if he doesn't get at least one ring, before his career's over, you're like, you'd be like shaking your head. But, I mean, that's why every season's different. No matter how great you look one year, things change the next. But at the end of the day, we're always going to know Colin Kaepernick. But, football-wise, he had his moment against the Ravens in Super Bowl. He had, some fantastic games, but that just really, really unraveled quickly.
Since we brought him up, Phil Knight, I thought, did a rather brave thing, and I think it cost them some business for a very short period of time, when he brought him on to be a figure of endorsement, and they did the whole thing. I think Serena Williams was in that piece. They did a thing about taking a stand and being brave about it, and I think they paid him a lot of money. So he did get that sort of recognition. But since that time, I don't know that I've seen very many campaigns revolving around him from Nike or anybody.
Yeah, that's the weird thing, at least my observation. I don't know how you guys feel, but he kind of disappeared. And and if anyone's who, I mean, I cover the game. I follow football. I mean, I wasn't exclusively searching for everything that Colin Kaepernick did every day, but there's so many media outlets. There's so many TVs. You got MSNBC, Headline News, Fox, CNN. I mean, there's so many platforms to, go on and especially what, his cause was for, Mr. Floyd's passing has, ignited a nation to kind of reflect on what his passion was and why he knelt, for the anthem. But at the end of the day, from that point where he kneeled till now, I mean, there was still a lot of controversies in it. For me, and again, if I'm wrong, anyone out there that's a Colin Kaepernick, and everything he's done, then I apologize, I don't. But he had such a platform. He had he galvanized the nation in terms of, their attention. But then to me, it just kind of fell on deaf ears where, he went away. He wasn't that voice that, we saw. But again, he disappeared. Again, in my opinion.
And that's why we talk to you. We want your opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you guys feel that way? I mean, I don't know if I just didn't see him. You would think, I just watched. I wasn't born then, but you watch the shows with, Lou Alcindor, Muhammad Ali, and Jim Brown, and these guys, and they were there every day, and they were doing, they were standing up for it, but they were seen and heard, and like I said, we saw it with Colin, and it seemed like, it was the statement made, and then it was just kind of,
but
faded.
He
and like
didn't marginalize himself. He was marginalized by the establishmentarians.
But I think to Bo's question here, it is, where did he go? He stopped making appearances about why he did what he did. He just sort of decided, I've had enough. I'm going underground.
Understood.
And I do. I get it. And maybe
I get it. Yeah.
Maybe he got out of the Nike deal. Maybe he got enough where he could be comfortable, and he just didn't want the scrutiny.
If Michael Crabtree hangs onto that ball late, that corner route, he's probably MVP of that Super Bowl, and Drew's Ravens don't win.
I mean, imagine, and if everything transpires, like I said, it's a really, and if they do win that game, you figure that the 49ers probably pony up and extend this contract.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like I said, if he was signed, it's a whole different dynamic, in terms of, and Eric Reed, we know how that worked. I mean, Eric Reed was at that point, and then, once he hit free agency, then, they put him on the back burner. Fortunate enough, Eric Reed was able to kind of get his career back, and he spent a couple of years in Carolina. But, Eric Reed was on the 49ers, and then once that contract expired, they did the same thing to him, at least in my opinion. I felt that, collusion there where, hey, he was part of it, and, and we're not going to bring him back for a while as well. So, but, prayers to the country. I mean, love one another. I mean, treat people like you want to be treated. I mean, I'm not a saint by any, but in terms of, but I try to raise my kids to love everybody, and, anybody's welcome in our home, and, love your neighbor, I guess.
Well said, Bo. Thank you much. We'll talk to you next week.
Yep.
We appreciate it.
Have a great week, gentlemen.
You too. Bo Marchant. He is collegetopro.com. This portion of the show is brought to you by Ken Garland. Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Let me tell you, Ken knows. He knows it's a big decision, a big commitment. You're building your dream home. Maybe you're renovating. I call it renovation with innovation. That's when he takes all the modern amenities and makes your home that you like because you love the location. You love your lot. You love your trees. You don't want to go your yard. You planted all that stuff. He makes your old home a modern palace. Go see what I'm talking about. Go to kengarland.com. Now, if you are looking for a piece of land, he's got that. Maybe you've got land from your family. You're not sure what to do. He knows that. Maybe you're looking for a whole development. He's got that too. It's called Alaylon. It's a gated community by Boyle. Ken's involved. It's on Messick Road, east of Kirby, all the way to McVeigh. 4-bedroom home starting at $875,000. Call Ken. Ask about it or ask about anything. He's really interesting to talk to. 751-1632. That's the number. 751-1632. You want that dream home or you want to make your old home modern? He's your guy, Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. A little bit earlier in the day, we had a chance to sit down with a Memphis legend, a historic figure. His name is Leonard Draper, and he is next.
Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy get you through the midday with Sports 56 Middays. Delivered by FedEx. Weekdays from 10 till 1 on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7.
I want to invite you to come by the Spirit Shop. You know, that little log cabin on Poplar? Your liquor and wine oasis. The Spirit Shop has been providing sports fans their beverage needs since way back in 1969. So come in now and get ready for the big game. Whether your favorite team wins or loses, the Spirit Shop will help you celebrate or ease that pain away. The Spirit Shop is open every day, and they're located perfectly at 4848 Poplar. That's the corner of Poplar and St. Nick.
Jay Farner here, CEO of Rocket Mortgage. Making the right financial decisions has never been more important. When you turn to Rocket Mortgage, we can help guide you to those right decisions now when they matter most. Mortgage rates are near historic lows, so now is a great time to call 8338-ROCKET. And if you need some extra money, a cash-out refinance could give you that financial boost you're looking for. Call today at 8338-ROCKET or go to rocketmortgage.com to learn more.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
O'Reilly. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, get up to a $15 gift card after mail-in rebate when you purchase select Superstart batteries. With high cranking power and reserve capacity, Superstart batteries provide all the power your vehicle demands and more. Turn the key with confidence. Superstart batteries only at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Chad Gatlin is your Mid-South Farmers agent, and he's easy to find. Just go to memphisfarmers.com to get a fast quote or call his office at 901-237-1176. And during this wild time we're all facing, know Chad has you covered. Whether you need to file a claim, get a quote, or just talk about what he can do to give you the absolute best coverage at the best price. Chad is a Memphis man and knows the area and that everyone is different, and he will work to make sure you have everything you need and nothing you don't. Get a fast quote at memphisfarmers.com or call 901-235-1176. DeSoto Auto Sales specializes in late model cars with low mileage. They have the highest standards in the car industry. All of their cars are test driven, checked out from head to toe. Unlimited inventory, every make and model. And if it's not on the lot, they'll find it for you. Walk in the door of DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Within 45 minutes, you can test your car, get credit approval, and finish paperwork within an hour. No shortcuts at DeSoto Auto Sales. Kind, courteous employees, a down-home environment. DeSoto Auto Sales cares about your time. Lowest prices in a 350-mile radius. We're living in a world today where time does matter. Visit them online. Check out their referrals. DeSotoAutosales.com. Very proud to serve DeSoto County and other surrounding areas. DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Call 662-890-7184. 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto Auto Sales.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
This Tuesday disappearing before our very eyes, and we had the opportunity to learn and to reminisce with a gentleman who I think is really a major figure in the history of Memphis and Memphis sports, but he was a galvanizer along with his buddy. That would be Larry Finch. Earlier today, we had a chance to sit down with Leonard Draper. Leonard, you've been here for the strike in '68, the sanitation strike where they had a curfew. You were around in '78 with the firefighter strike, the last one that we had where there was a curfew. We had one yesterday. We've got one tonight. What was the first thing you thought about, Leonard? And thank you for being with us this afternoon when you heard about the curfew last night.
Well, I don't think this is the first time Memphis has been on a curfew, Dave, best of my knowledge.
No, third time since '68.
Right, but it was kind of expected. And I think maybe the mayor and the police director was taking precautionary measures, because when our march first started, even back to when we were on the bridge, there was no destruction of property or anything like that. because when marches, they'll start out being very peaceful, and then you have that segment that will come out and take advantage of the situation and destroy things and steal and loot. So it was kind of expected. I think things are at a calm pace right now, which I am thankful, and I pray for it to come.
And tonight we will have it again. So let us be hopeful. I
am prayerful that it will be a peaceful and calm night tonight to express the disappointment, the sadness of what happened to Mr. George
Floyd,
and hope that things will work and these things will kind of smooth themselves out. But me personally, I don't think things are going to smooth out until something happened with the other three officers. Now, that's just my personal opinion.
I agree. And they should be, Mr. Draper, they should be charged as accomplices, just like the offending party. They sat there and let it occur, and I think it makes you just as guilty. So over 52 years now, 3 noted curfews. In the curfew after Dr. King's assassination, it took a lot of people, and you were right there at the forefront, the vanguard. It took the Black Ministerial Alliance, it took the civil rights community, it took the faith community and the white minister groups around town, whether it was Jewish or Gentile. On edge, the tinderbox that it had to be right here at ground zero at the Lorraine Motel for Dr. King to now, we're not ground zero. What was it like for you to be there in those historic times when you knew if something doesn't change, we're not going to get along?
Well, let me go back a little bit, Dave, because and Brett,